Chapter 8:18. After the statue was activated by City Lord He Jinglong, it connected the runes to the bodies of the body integration stage self-cultivators. This was equivalent to using the body integration stage self-cultivators as a small base of the array. The body integration stage runes merged with the bodies of the severed soul stage self-cultivators on the city gate tower, turning them into a small base of the city protection array. After the spirit energy of the severed soul stage self-cultivators was activated, it turned into runes and merged with the city gate tower. The runes on the city gate tower began to spread along the walls of Eastern Sand City. The entire walls of Eastern Sand City lit up with a mysterious light. Then, it shot out and merged with the bodies of the out-of-body stage and nascent soul stage self-cultivators near the city wall, turning them into a small base of the city protection array. These self-cultivators, who had been turned into the foundation of the array, continuously poured their spiritual energy into the defense array. The defense array, which had been on the verge of collapse due to the destruction of the Yumming devils outside, once again lit up with a faint transparent barrier. Like a layer of water membrane, it covered the entire huge Dongsha city and blocked all the attacks of the Yumming devils. Loud booms continued to ring out, and all the residents of Eastern Sand City appeared to be trembling in fear. Those cultivators who had yet to reach the nascent soul stage were all gathered in the streets and on the rooftops. They looked at the Yumming demons in the sky anxiously, but there was nothing they could do. Success. All of the participating self-cultivators saw hope. After they became the base of the array, they could also feel the current situation of the city protection array. After the city protection array was supported by the powerful self-cultivators' spirit energy, it gradually stabilized and seemed to have blocked Yumon's sudden attack. Eastern Sand City was an extremely important city on the third continent. It was much larger than the former Misty Breath City and Clearwater City. It was the hub of the cultivation world where countless cultivators came and went. It was also the reason why there were enough powerful cultivators to serve as the foundation of the defense array to maintain the array. The statue of Jian Ying and Chen Feng returned to the city gate tower and stared at Yumon outside of Eastern Sand City. He still looked so elegant and free. City Lord He Jinglong's face was also pale. He withdrew his spirit energy and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Just now, in order to activate the entire city defense array, he had consumed a huge amount of spiritual energy, which was more strenuous than anyone else. However, before everyone could relax, 3 extremely terrifying auras suddenly enveloped everyone. These 3 auras were filled with killing intent, as if they were killing gods from the Yellow Springs Road. With a single thought, they could slaughter the world, causing rivers of blood to flow and millions of corpses to lie on the ground. Mu Yu's expression changed. It was a murderous aura. A tall figure covered in raging flames appeared in the sky above Eastern Sand City. This figure was over 10 meters tall and looked like a flaming giant. The flames on his body were a strange black color. Another pitch-black stone giant also stepped out clumsily from the air, waving his huge fists. His body was 2 meters taller than the flame giant. Standing there, he looked incomparably heavy, as if the void couldn't bear his weight. The last one was a silvery white metal giant. It was 20 meters tall, and every joint on its body was sharp. It was like a human-shaped killing machine. As its hands danced, there were even intense explosive waves. Each of its movements seemed to be cutting through everything, and even the dust could not withstand its sharpness. This was the first time that all the self-cultivators had seen such a tall Yumon. In particular, these 3 Yumon giants were all at the tribulation passing stage, and the highest cultivation in Eastern Sand City was only the old city lord, He Jinglong, who was at the 9th heavenly layer of the body integration stage. Self-cultivators of Eastern Sand City, your end is here. This voice was like a thunderclap from the 9th heaven, rolling and rumbling, as if it could shatter one's mind. Everyone couldn't help but tremble. That kind of domineering and murderous aura made everyone tremble in fear. What was even more frightening was that the cultivation of these 3 tribulation-passing stage human giants was enough to sweep through the entire Eastern Sand City. This also made the self-cultivators of Eastern Sand City uneasy. What are these things? He Jinglong was extremely shocked and furious. Not only him, but all the self-cultivators were also shocked when they saw the 3 human giants in the sky above Eastern Sand City. In their impression, although Yuman had a strange appearance, it was not much different from a human. This was the first time they had seen such a tall Yuman. The monstrous killing intent on these Yuman giants was like a violent storm. It was as if they could shatter the sky with just a wave of their hands. Those with weaker cultivation were so frightened that they were at a loss for what to do and trembled all over. If it wasn't for the protection of Eastern Sand City's protective array, those self-cultivators below the nascent soul stage would probably not be able to stand. A flaming saber appeared in the flaming giant's hand. The flaming saber was sharp and violent. Black flames danced around it, as if it wanted to devour everything in the world. As the saber slashed down, it was as if nothing in the world could withstand it. The human giant also raised its huge fist. That fist was incomparably heavy like a mountain. It smashed down, shattering the clouds in the sky and causing the entire sky to change color. Even the self-cultivators' breathing stopped for a moment. A white spear appeared in the human giant's hand. The spear was like a pillar that supported the heavens. It charged forward bravely, as if it was the most powerful divine weapon in the world, capable of piercing a hole in the sky. The spear brought with it a whirlwind and stabbed down with a loud bang. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 tribulation-passing stage human giants used their most powerful attacks, one after another, on the same spot of the protective array. The protective array, which had been stabilized, was once again hit by a violent impact. The area where the array had been hit caved in, and clear cracks even appeared on the protective array. Poochie! City Lord He Jinglong spat out a mouthful of blood. He was the most important foundation of the entire protective array. Under the powerful attacks of the 3 tribulation-passing stage human giants, he was directly implicated and was severely injured. Not only him, but the remaining 31 body integration stage self-cultivators were also affected. However, their injuries were not as serious as He Jinglong's. Their faces were a little pale, and the blood in their bodies was a little turbulent. As for the spirit-severing stage self-cultivators and the other self-cultivators, they only felt that the array had begun to become restless, but they were not injured. At this time, the 3 flame giants did not stop. They once again used their most powerful attacks. Boom, boom, boom. This time, the protective array trembled violently. The transparent protective array caved in deeply, and more cracks appeared on it. It was already at the point of imminent danger. He Jinglong spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura had already weakened. This time, not only him, but the remaining 31 body integration stage self-cultivators also had blood flowing out of their mouth. The blood in the spirit-severing stage self-cultivators also began to surge, and the impact was gradually increasing. No, if they do it 2 more times, I'm afraid that the protective array will completely collapse. City Lord He Jinglong clutched his chest. His face was as white as paper, without a trace of blood. The white beard on his chest was also dyed red by his own blood. Right now, he was the closest to the protective array of East Sand City. Once the protective array collapsed, he would also die along with it. City Lord He Jinglong was the person with the highest cultivation in East Sand City at this time. If something happened to him, the entire East Sand City would not be able to withstand the thousands of human. Then what should we do? I already said that we can't withstand it. They actually sent out such powerful human giant. We are not prepared at all. If we resist, we will only be waiting for death. Stargate's Tian Ziming's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. Our East Sand City needs a tribulation-passing stage self-cultivator to withstand it. Solitary Fiend Sex Ling Rufeng said with a solemn expression. It's too late now. A tribulation-passing stage expert won't be able to make it here in time. Xian Ling Sex Zhuang Hong shook his head. Everyone's hearts were filled with despair. The Yuman attacked East Sand City without any warning. Originally, they thought that with City Lord He Jinglong's cultivation at the 9th heavenly layer of the body integration stage and the strength of the protective array, they would be able to withstand the sudden attack of the Yuman giants. However, they didn't expect the Yuman to come prepared this time. They even sent out 3 tribulation-passing stage heaven stage Yuman giants to attack the city. Jian Ying and Qin Feng statues were the foundation of the protective array. Over the years, they absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to maintain the array. However, if they wanted to completely withstand the Yuman's attack, they would need all the self-cultivators in the city to work together. Tribulation-passing stage self-cultivators were simply too terrifying, especially when there were thousands of Yuman constantly attacking the protective array. One could imagine how much pressure the protective array was under. The attacks of 3 tribulation-passing stage cultivators were unstoppable. Although East Sand City had many self-cultivators with high cultivation, their combined strength could only withstand a few attacks. Boom, boom, boom. While the 16 body integration stage self-cultivators were talking, the 3 Yuman giants launched their 3rd attack. Terrifying fluctuations spread to everyone's body. Everyone felt like a small boat in a stormy sea that was about to be destroyed by the waves at any time. This time, City Lord He Jinglong was bleeding from all 7 orifices of his body. It was as if his entire body was soaked in blood. He staggered 2 steps and was no longer able to stay afloat in the air. He fell straight down. City Lord! All the body integration stage self-cultivators anxiously shouted. However, they couldn't even protect themselves. If He Jinglong couldn't withstand this power, the remaining 31 body integration stage self-cultivators would have to bear it for him. At the same time, all the severed soul stage self-cultivators on the city wall spat out mouthfuls of blood. They were also severely injured. Could it be that the heavens really want our East Sand City to be destroyed? An aura of despair filled the air. Dark clouds covered the hearts of everyone in East Sand City. In the face of the terrifying Yuman giants, they were so insignificant. There was simply no room for resistance. Break for me! The roars of the 3 tribulation-passing stage Yuman giants shook the sky. The power of the protective array exceeded their expectations. The self-cultivators maintaining the array were at most at the 9th heavenly layer of the body integration stage. They thought that the first attack would be enough to shatter the protective array. However, they didn't expect that the protective array would be able to withstand the 3rd attack. Chapter 8:19. City Lord He Jinglong no longer had any strength left in his body. The spiritual energy in his body had been completely depleted by the defensive array. Although he was still conscious, he knew that he would not be able to withstand the 4th attack. Looks like Eastern Sand City is really going to be destroyed by the Yuman. This thought flashed through He Jinglong's mind in despair. Unless a miracle happened and a tribulation-transcending stage cultivator rushed over to stop the 3 Yuman, the 3 tribulation-transcending stage Yuman would destroy the defensive array in a few breaths' time. They would definitely charge into Eastern Sand City with the Yuman and unleash a bloodbath. No one would be able to stop them. All the cultivators could feel the apocalypse looming over them. They were so insignificant in the hands of the 3 Yuman. All they could do was wait for the calamity to befall the city. Many people screamed in horror. They all regretted coming to Eastern Sand City. They regretted coming to such a dangerous place. The attention of all the cultivators in Eastern Sand City had been attracted by the three insufferably arrogant human giants in the sky. No one noticed that two figures had already disappeared from the city gates. Die! At this moment, the three human giants, who exuded a tyrannical aura of slaughter, raised their fists and magical treasures high up in the air and smashed down on the defensive array. This time, the defensive array was bound to shatter. Everyone revealed a look of horror as they watched the unstoppable attack descend. It was as if doomsday had arrived. They were like a small boat in the middle of a raging storm. They could only watch helplessly as the torrential waves ravaged them. A deep sense of helplessness rose from the bottom of their hearts. There was nothing they could do. At this moment, an incomparably fierce aura of slaughter soared into the sky from the center of Eastern Sand City. This aura of slaughter was extremely sudden. It was like a cold ray of light in the middle of the night. It alarmed everyone and caused the cultivators to feel a bone-piercing chill. This aura was actually exactly the same as the three killing auras outside Eastern Sand City. What? Could it be that a human giant has already infiltrated Eastern Sand City? This thought appeared in many people's minds. However, the murderous aura of the Eastern Sand City suddenly transformed into incomparably mysterious runes in the air. The runes constantly changed in the air, interweaving into complex inscriptions, forming a green brilliance that blasted directly onto the city defense array. Voila! With the center of the defender array as the center, ripples suddenly spread out. Countless 8 trigrams runes quickly covered the already damaged defender array. Mysterious and obscure inscriptions merged into the defender array from time to time, causing the defender array to tremble. Everyone's heart tightened. Would the defender array be able to withstand this attack? However, there were no signs of cracks coming from the defender array. On the contrary, the cracks on the defender array were quickly repaired by a strange force, and this force gradually spread to the other self-cultivators, quickly stripping away the spiritual energy in their bodies. This force was bone-chilling, causing every cultivator to involuntarily exhale a breath of cold air. At the same time, the final destructive attack of the 3 tribulation stage human giants had already landed on the defender array. Everyone's hearts were already in their throats. The more cowardly ones had even closed their eyes and waited for death. Buzz. It was like an ancient masterpiece, like the evening drum and morning bell, shaking everyone's hearts and minds. Everyone's consciousness was in a trance for a moment, and they couldn't even breathe. However, this time, there was no earth-shattering sound, and the defender array didn't shatter. The destructive attacks of the 3 human giants landed on the defender array, and the green aura covering the defender array surged with endless power. Like an endless wave, it spun and spun, forming 2 runes, one black and one white, that appeared. These 2 runes were hard but soft. They actually evenly distributed the force of the attacks of the 3 human giants to every corner of the defender array. The defender array only trembled slightly, and it withstood the final attack of the 3 human giants. The color of blood returned to everyone's faces, and they could finally breathe out. Everyone's faces were filled with ecstasy. The defender array had actually withstood the attack. It had withstood the terrifying attacks of the 3 tribulation stage human giants. The defender array, which they thought was about to be destroyed, had withstood the 4th attack. This allowed them to see a glimmer of light in the darkness. They looked gratefully at the murderous aura in the center of Dongsha City. That aura was very similar to the aura of the 3 human giant. The only difference was that the aura in the center of the city seemed to have a bit more spirituality. Although it was still bone-chilling, the chill now seemed very intimate. What on earth is that? City Lord He Jinglong had already fallen to the ground. However, just as the attacks of the 3 human giants were about to land, the green aura protected the tottering defender array and stabilized his body in the air. He panted heavily. Although the aura in his body was weak, it was still clear. Like the other cultivators, he didn't know where the green murderous aura had come from. Who was it? Found it! When the three Yuman giants saw the murderous aura that was similar to theirs, they shouted in a low, muffled voice. However, they didn't continue attacking. Instead, they looked at each other and said coldly, "The murderous aura is indeed here. The murderous aura." Hearing the three Yuman's words, the cultivators of Dongsha City didn't understand. However, when they recalled the aura of the three Yuman and the fourth aura in the center of Dongsha City, it was indeed the murderous aura of a supreme killing god. Hoi Yuman stepped forward and shouted, "Are you going to show yourself, or do we have to come and find you ourselves?" His voice was like rolling thunder, spreading throughout the entire Dongsha City and shocking all the cultivators. Could it be that the Yuman had come here today just for the murderous aura in the center of Dongsha City? Didn't that mean that Dongsha City had been implicated by the fourth murderous aura? No one dared to say for sure. Everyone had a strange feeling after surviving a calamity. It was as if they were innocent victims who had been implicated by the owner of the fourth murderous aura and had almost been killed. In the center of Dongsha City, Mu Yu stood in an empty alley and stared coldly at the three Yuman giants in the air. The murderous aura on his body continued to surge. The buildings around him had been destroyed by the powerful 8 trigrams array. In order to use the array and restore the spirituality of the city defense array, he had expended a huge amount of spiritual energy. Are they here for me? Mu Yu's heart was filled with endless murderous intent. However, he was very calm and very clear-headed. He knew what he was doing. Mu Yu, we've already helped them apply the separation array to the city defense array. With the strength of all the cultivators in the city to stabilize the city defense array, it's more than enough to block the 3 of them. You can't use this power anymore. Little Shuai grabbed Mu Yu's hand and a warm aura entered Mu Yu's body. Mu Yu glanced at Little Shuai and the murderous aura gradually faded and disappeared. Someone's coming. Let's get out of here. Mu Yu glanced around. His array had destroyed this place. At this moment, many cultivators from the Jindan period had already come over to investigate the situation. These cultivators from the Jindan period were too weak to help, so they could only tremble at the side. When they saw the murderous aura, they were the first to react. Mu Yu didn't want to expose his identity. He immediately grabbed Little Shuai and with a flash of array runes under his feet, he left the alley. The fourth murderous aura disappeared just as quickly as it had appeared. It was like a flash in the pan, quickly disappearing from everyone's sight. When City Lord He Jinglong and the others saw that the murderous aura in the center of the city had disappeared, they immediately began to worry. Without the help of that tribulation stage cultivator, it would be very difficult to stop the 3 Yumming giant. When the 3 Yumming giants saw that the fourth murderous aura had suddenly disappeared, they were instantly enraged. They roared angrily and the 3 of them attacked again. A terrifying power once again came crashing down on the city defense array. Everyone's hearts were in their throats again. Without the help of that mysterious cultivator, would the city defense array be able to withstand the attacks of the 3 Yumming giants? Buzz. The city defense array rippled once again, dispersing all of the Yuman's attacks. A relieved expression appeared on City Lord He Jinglong's face. When he saw that the 3 arrogant Yumming giants were suddenly unable to do anything to the city defense array, he knew that Dongsha City's crisis had passed. However, he still didn't dare to let his guard down. He took out a healing pill from his robes and swallowed it before flying up again to continue maintaining the city defense array with the others. The other self-cultivators could finally breathe a sigh of relief. They were all extremely glad that they had managed to escape with their lives. At this moment, the runes on the city defense array were flowing very naturally, as if it was covered with a layer of flowing water. The 3 Yumming giants were still attacking, but every time Yuman's attack landed, it would disperse all of its power, greatly reducing the pressure on He Jinglong. The 3 tribulation stage Yumming giants were no longer able to break through the city defense array. Who on earth is that person? This was the question in everyone's heart, including City Lord He Jinglong. Why was the murderous aura so similar to the three Yumeng giants? Could it be Yuman? However, if it was Yuman who had snuck in, the city defense array would definitely have sounded the alarm. Even a tribulation stage Yumeng wouldn't be able to sneak in. This meant that the cold aura should belong to some incomparably powerful self-cultivator. But who would have such terrifying power? The three Yumeng giants finally realized that continuing to attack would be futile. They couldn't force the aura out anymore, so they could only stop. They glared angrily from outside, but there was nothing they could do. Just when everyone thought that they could relax, the Yumeng giant in the sky roared in a low, muffled voice, "All humans of Dongsha City, listen up. If you don't hand that person over, in 3 days we will activate the 5 elements apocalypse and destroy everything." What? 5 elements apocalypse? Chapter 820. When the Yuman started to roam the threefold continent, the threefold palace gave out jade slips with information about the Yuman's aura to all the cities. Many people did not care because they felt that with the threefold palace around, they did not need to worry about the Yuman. However, most people knew about the contents of the jade slip. The jade slip given out by the threefold palace mentioned that the 5 elements world annihilation was the most powerful and destructive formation art that the Yumeng demons of the 5 elements could unleash together. It could forcefully transform anything into a 5 elements formation and then destroy it. Even the Citadel defense array could not withstand it. This kind of formation would cause a lot of damage to the Yuman. It could be said that they would suffer a lot of damage to themselves. Unless they had no other choice, they would not use this formation. If the Yuman dared to say such a thing, no one could guarantee that they would not dare to do it. From the looks of it, the person who appeared in Dongsha City just now must be very important to the Yuman. The 3 Yuman giants sat cross-legged in the sky above Dongsha City. All the Yuman stopped attacking and spread out around the 3 Yuman giant. Then, they injected their own Yuman energy into the bodies of the 3 Yuman giant. The 3 Yuman giants emitted a powerful killing aura. Flames, sand, and metal fused together to form an invisible formation, instantly sealing the 4 city gates of Dongsha City. The 3 Yuman giants were not stupid. They knew that the entire sky above Dongsha City had been covered by this formation since 2 months ago. They could not fly into Dongsha City directly. They could only walk through the city gate. This meant that as long as they used the 5 elements array to seal the 4 city gates, it was equivalent to trapping the entire Dongsha City. Everyone's faces were covered with a layer of worry. The city gates were sealed, and they were like turtles in a jar. Time passed quickly, and night fell. However, the Yuman giants did not have any intention of retreating. There were still countless Yuman giants floating in the sky, waiting for orders. The 3 Yuman giants left after leaving behind a series of arrogant threats, leaving only the remaining Yuman giants to guard the city. Those 3 transcending tribulation stage Yumeng have already left. Everything is fine for now. City Lord He Jinglong raised his remaining spiritual energy and once again formed a seal with his hand. The array pattern that emanated from the true God statue seemed to be imprinted with a mark and quickly disappeared into the bodies of all the cultivators. Everyone disperse. Once the imprint in your body is triggered, remember, no matter what, you must rush over as fast as you can. He Jinglong's voice sounded a little tired. The city protecting array was a powerful array formation that used the power of nature as its foundation. The power of nature also included people. Therefore, as long as these cultivators were still in Dongsha City, no matter what they did, they would be a part of the array foundation. Although they had just survived a calamity, the self-cultivators of Eastern Sand City still felt as if a huge rock was weighing down on their hearts. The 3 Yuman giants had only left. They would return in 3 days. If the Yuman giants were to use a destructive array like the 5 Elements Apocalypse, then how would Eastern Sand City deal with them? Exhausted, every cultivator returned to their respective residences and began to sit cross-legged to adjust their breathing and recover from their injuries. This time, Yuman's sudden attack didn't cause any large-scale casualties. However, many people were seriously injured, especially City Lord He Jinglong, who had the highest cultivation base. He was the most seriously injured. However, as everyone recovered from their injuries, a question kept circling around in their minds. Which transcending tribulation stage human was the source of the 4th powerful killing aura today? Why didn't he step forward at the beginning when he was at the transcending tribulation stage? Was the 3 Yuman giants attacking Eastern Sand City actually for that person? If that was the case, didn't that mean that as long as they handed that person over, the crisis of Eastern Sand City would naturally be resolved? The night was long, but Eastern Sand City was brightly lit. No one was in the mood to sleep. At this moment, when Eastern Sand City looked up at the starry sky, what they saw wasn't a sky full of stars. Instead, they saw countless human-shaped flames floating in the sky. The light of the flames reflected off 2 Yuman and Jin Yuman's bodies, emitting a dazzling light. This was a very rare sight, but no one was in the mood to appreciate this beautiful yet dangerous scene right now. In the Xian Beast workshop, Mu Yu sat in the courtyard. He and little Shuai looked at the Yuman in the sky and fell into deep thought. Xian Jingtang still hadn't returned. Qi Shan was busy in the kitchen, and Xian Sitong was in the room telling her mother about what happened today. Yuman must have sensed it when we killed Yi Feiying that night. Little Shuai used the wind-wind heart linking formation and said in his mind. Mu Yu didn't refute anything. It seemed that this matter was caused by him. Those 3 Yuman probably came for him as well. However, he still didn't understand why those 3 people had that kind of killing aura. Could it be them? Little Shuai hesitated for a moment before asking. Mu Yu knew who Little Shuai was talking about. Little Shuai thought that the 3 Yuman giants outside were Luo Shang, Qingyan, and Xiang Nan who were possessed by the killing aura. However, Mu Yu shook his head. It's not them. I'm sure of it. How do you know? Little Shuai asked. Intuition. Then what if it's really them? No. Mu Yu pursed his lips. He didn't have any evidence, or it could be said that he didn't want to admit it. That killing aura was almost the same as the aura on his body. It was as if they had experienced endless killing. Little Shuai didn't say anything else. He pondered for a moment before continuing. You won't go out and face them alone, right? No. Mu Yu wouldn't blindly throw his life away. The 3 Yuman giants' cultivation levels were even stronger than the 4 Dragon Clan leaders he had met at the Green Dragon Demon King. According to Mu Yu's estimation, their cultivation levels were at least stage 5 of tribulation passing. With Mu Yu's current strength, facing 3 tribulation passing stage Yuman giants, even if he had the killing aura, he would lose without a doubt. The reason why he was able to block the attacks of the 3 Yuman devils today was actually because of the powerful defensive formation of Eastern Sand City. He had only secretly activated the defensive mechanism of the entire formation based on the defensive formation's foundation. The formations that Jian Ying and Chen Feng had set up in various cities were very powerful. In fact, the city-protecting formation itself had a way to evenly distribute the attacks from outside. However, for some reason, Dongsha City's city-protecting formation had lost this ability. It was as if someone had destroyed it. Mu Yu had only fixed the city-protecting formation's defensive mechanism during the day. If he hadn't acted in time at the critical moment, the entire Dongsha City would have fallen. However, the city-protecting formation was too powerful. Mu Yu couldn't fix it with his body integration stage cultivation alone, so he could only use the killing aura. Then what do we do next? Little Commander asked. Let's see how it goes first. After Mu Yu used the killing aura, He felt something in his body shatter again. The evil aura in his heart seemed to have intensified. He didn't like this feeling very much. Hurried footsteps came from the front yard. Xian Jingtang came back with a tired face. He looked up at Mu Yu and suddenly sighed. "What's wrong?" Mu Yu asked. Xian Jingtang said dejectedly, "Master Jing didn't have time to leave Dongsha City. Zheng Xiuming was supposed to go to the Pill Cauldron sect to retrieve the 6th-tier Taisher Purple Heaven Pill after receiving the 5 million Spirit Stones. However, the Yumans suddenly attacked Dongsha City. Zheng Xiuming couldn't leave, so he could only maintain the city-protecting formation with the other self-cultivators." Mu Yu shook his head slightly. There was nothing he could do now that things had developed to this point. "Go and treat your injuries first. I will think of a way," Mu Yu said. Xian Jingtang was a severed soul stage self-cultivator. He was also on the city gate today. Because of Yuman's attack, he was also seriously injured. "Yes, young master." Xian Jingtang looked deeply at Mu Yu. There was a strange light in his eyes. He seemed to want to ask something, but he didn't ask in the end. Mu Yu knew what Xian Jingtang wanted to ask. He had shown his killing aura in front of Xian Jingtang before. The other people in Dongsha City might not know who that person was, but Xian Jingtang knew. The long night passed quietly and the day came again in Dongsha City. The weather today seemed to be a little depressing. It was as if a heavy stone was stuffed in everyone's chest. It made them feel a little scared even when they breathed. Yuman was still outside Dongsha City, eyeing them covetously. No one was happy. The number of self-cultivators on the streets gradually increased. Some flew in the air, some walked on the ground. The self-cultivators seemed to be making a lot of noise and interrupted Mu Yu's cultivation. "What's going on?" Little Shuai got up from the bed in a daze. The bustling noise outside woke him up from his beautiful dream. He was having a good dream. He dreamed of all kinds of delicious drumstick. He never worried about Yuman. In the entire Dongsha City, Little Shuai was probably the only one who slept the best. "I'm not sure. Let's go out and take a look." Mu Yu opened the door. Just as he was about to leave the Xian Beast workshop, Xian Jingtang hurriedly walked in from outside. "Uncle Xian, what's going on outside?" Mu Yu asked. Xian Jingtang's face was a little hesitant. Then he said, "Young master, I think you shouldn't go out." "Why?" Mu Yu frowned. Xian Jingtang said hesitantly, Because outside there's a crusade against the person who attracted Yuman yesterday." Xian Jingtang's eyes flickered. He didn't dare to look Mu Yu in the eyes. There was a long silence. "You already know, don't you?" Mu Yu asked. Xian Jingtang nodded, but then he said anxiously, "Young master, don't worry. I believe you're a good person." The murderous aura that had suddenly appeared in the eastern Sand City yesterday was exactly the same as the 3 Yumeng giants outside the city. Others might not know where this terrifying aura had come from, but Xian Jingtang was well aware of it. That night, when he killed Yi Feiying, it was this aura that made Xian Jingtang feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Not only that, this aura had already appeared once when the Xian Beast workshop killed those few demon hunters. "Thank you, Uncle Xian." Mu Yu walked towards the entrance of the Xian Beast workshop. He wanted to see the current situation in Dongsha City. Xian Jingtang's voice suddenly became unusually serious. "Young master, promise me that you won't do anything stupid." Mu Yu was startled. Then he asked, "What kind of stupid thing do you think I'll do?" Xian Jingtang shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I don't want anything to happen to you, young master." "Nothing will happen to me. I still have to protect you." Mu Yu smiled and left the Xian Beast workshop. Xian Jingtang's family was the boundary he used to balance the killing in his heart. He could not protect anyone, but he would definitely protect their family. Xiao Shuai rubbed his eyes and followed behind Mu Yu. He had already brought 2 pieces of barbecued meat from the kitchen at some point in time and was gnawing on it until his mouth was covered in oil. When they arrived at the main street, there was a hubbub of voices and all kinds of curses. "Tell that Yuman's kind to come out. That's right, he's the one who put our Dongsha city in danger. If it wasn't for him, how would our Dongsha city be in danger? I think we should work together to find him, capture him, and hand him over to Yuman." "That's right, let's do that. Let's go find the city lord now." Countless self-cultivators were furious. Yesterday, they had clearly heard the 2 Yumeng say that he wanted the self-cultivators of the East Sand City to hand over that person. Needless to say, everyone knew that the person was the one who had the terrifying killing intent yesterday. All the self-cultivators rushed towards the city lord's mansion. Currently, they were unable to leave the Eastern Sand City, and the threat of the Yumeng Devil Clan made them tremble in fear. They wanted to hand over the people that the Yumeng Devil Clan wanted in order to protect themselves. Mu Yu finally understood why Xian Zhengtang told him not to do anything stupid. Xian Zhengtang did not wish for Mu Yu to step forward himself in order to protect the lives of the entire city. He did not wish for these self-cultivators to be handed over to Yuman to deal with. Mu Yu stood on the street as countless self-cultivators pushed past him. As they walked past him, they cursed non-stop. Every single one of them was impassioned. They wanted to ferret out the person who possessed the 4th killing intent yesterday. When they faced Yuman, all the self-cultivators were cowering in fear. All they could think of was how to escape from this city. They did not have any thoughts of resisting. Now, they wanted to find the person who had helped them and hand him over to Yuman to protect themselves. Mu Yu felt an inexplicable sense of sorrow. He had helped the entire Dongsha city, but these self-cultivators had chosen to send him to his death in order to protect themselves. He did not understand this. The human race and Yuman had always been sworn enemies. Since when had the human race fallen to the point where they had to compromise with Yuman? They're really a bunch of ingrates. If it wasn't for us yesterday, I'm afraid that Yuman would have bathed the entire Dongsha city in blood. Little Commander angrily threw the barbecued meat on the ground. The barbecued meat was quickly trampled to pieces by the passionate self-cultivators. Their passion was all used to think of ways to protect themselves. They never used it to think of how to deal with Yuman. Mu Yu remained silent. The crowd kept pushing forward, and he was forced to go with the flow, moving with the impassioned crowd. Chapter 8:21. A large group of self-cultivators had already gathered outside the city lord's mansion. They were clamoring for an explanation from City Lord He Jinglong. "City Lord, you must know who that person was yesterday, right? City Lord, you should lead us to hand over the person Yuman wants. As long as we hand that person over to Yuman, then our Eastern Sand City will be saved. Hand him over. Hand him over. We want to live. Yuman only wants that person, not us." The self-cultivators outside the city lord's mansion were shouting louder than the next. They didn't know who that person was, but they all believed that He Jinglong, as the city lord, would know who that person was. City Lord He Jinglong finally appeared. He had suffered serious injuries yesterday, and his face was still very pale. He hadn't fully recovered yet. But now that Eastern Sand City was surrounded by Yuman, the situation was critical. The fate of the entire human race in the city was tied to his shoulders. As the city lord, he had to stand up. "Fellow Taoists, now that we are facing a great enemy, we should all unite and think of a way to resist Yuman's invasion. Why are all of you making such a big fuss today?" He Jinglong stood in the air above the city lord's mansion, looking down at everyone. He looked very tired, and his white hair and beard were a little messy. But he still forced himself to be alert. "City Lord, you saw it too. Those Yuman yesterday came for that person with terrifying power. Now that we've been surrounded by Yuman, you should give the order to arrest that person. A middle-aged man said loudly in the crowd. That's right. Yumon's target is that person, not us. As long as the city lord gives the order to find that person and hand him over to Yumon, our Eastern Sand City's crisis will naturally be resolved. The others agreed. That's right. We can't sacrifice the lives of the entire city for one person. City Lord, you must know who that person is, right? The scene was chaotic, and voices of condemnation could be heard everywhere. He Jinglong raised his hand, indicating for everyone to quiet down. He then said in a clear voice, Everyone, we must consider this matter at length. First of all, we don't know who that person is. Second, if it weren't for that mysterious person yesterday, I'm afraid Eastern Sand City would have already become a living hell. Has everyone forgotten this matter? Although He Jinglong's body was a little weak, he was not muddle-headed at all. His voice was very loud and clear as it entered everyone's ears. However, his words could not pacify these cultivators. Someone shouted, If we don't hand that person over within 3 days, our Dongsha city will become a living hell. The Yumon has already gone back to gather more men. Today, only 3 of the Yumon's clans have come and almost defeated us. If all 5 clans come together, our Dongsha city will definitely be trampled to the ground by the Yumon. That's right. With our current situation, we can't fight Yumon at all. And that person's aura is the same as Yumon's. He must be Yumon's accomplice. Yes, that's right. Only if we hand him over to Yumon will we have any hope of survival. Every cultivator nodded. Although the mysterious person had appeared yesterday to protect Dongsha City, no one was convinced. They wanted to compromise with Yumon. Muyu listened to all of this quietly in the crowd. A strange feeling arose in his heart. Are all humans so cowardly? The old city lord was furious and shouted, What kind of nonsense are you all spouting? There's no way Yumon could have snuck in without anyone noticing. And everyone should have heard it. Yesterday, Yumon clearly pointed out that the person who did this was a person, not Yu Meng. It's a person and he's willing to help us. Right now we should be thinking of how to resist Yumon under his leadership, not thinking of compromising with Yumon. Us humans and Yumon are mortal enemies. There's no such thing as compromise. Although the old city lord was injured, his dignity was not to be underestimated. His voice was sonorous and powerful. He had not forgotten the courage that a human should have. Humans would not compromise with Yumon. But these cultivators had never experienced the era of war with Yumon. They were born in a time of peace, when the true God had trapped all the Yumon to prevent them from being invaded by racial wars. They did not understand what Yumon meant to humans. In the current cultivation world, there were very few people who had experienced the Yumon war. Flowers that had been sheltered in a greenhouse for too long were suddenly attacked by a storm. They could not resist at all, so they chose to compromise. We don't care about that. Lord City Lord, you must know who that person is, right? Get him to come out and explain the situation to us. That's right. In this city, other than him, you have the highest cultivation. As the City Lord, you must know about that person's situation. Lord City Lord, don't hide him anymore. Hurry up and get him to come out. Although the old city lord's words were very reasonable, many people did not listen. Everyone thought that the old city lord knew this mysterious powerhouse. The old city lord was furious. He didn't expect the self-cultivators to speak like this. Although the city was under his jurisdiction, not all the self-cultivators in the city obeyed his orders. Most of the self-cultivators who spoke were from other sections. Other so-called righteous sections. The old city lord was so angry that his whole body trembled. I said, I don't know him. And you have to understand that the expert senior from yesterday helped us. His cultivation has already reached the tribulation passing stage. He's strong enough to fight against 3 Yumon giants. Not only are you not grateful to him, but you treat our savior like this. Can your conscience be at ease? We should be hoping that he will come out and lead us to fight to the death with Yuman, not hand him over to Yuman to be dealt with. Fight to the death? We don't fight battles that we have no confidence in. A body fusion stage cultivator flew out from the crowd. It was Stargate's Tian Zimming. His appearance caused the crowd to gradually quiet down. People from the 8 gates had extremely high statuses, not to mention that he was a body fusion stage elder. Tian Zimming looked coldly at He Jinglong and sneered. Lord City Lord, what do you think our chances of winning against Yuman are? You want to rely on that person, but have you thought about it? No matter how strong he is, he's only one person. He can't fight against 3 Yuman giant. If he can't, what will happen to the rest of us? As an elder of Stargate, Tian Zimming's words were very convincing. They were even more convincing than the heavily injured old city lord. How do we know if we don't try? Yesterday we relied on him to block Yuman. This means that we have the ability to fight against Yuman. The old city lord shouted angrily. But if we find that person and hand him over to Yuman to be dealt with, we can save everyone in Eastern Sand City. Then who here wants to fight to the death with Yuman? Tian Zimming sneered and swept his gaze over the crowd. That's right, we don't want to throw our lives away. Someone immediately agreed. We want to live. That's right, we're no match for Yuman right now. With one person there was a second, a third. The crowd was indignant again. They actually all agreed with Tian Zimming's words. The old city lord clutched his chest as the blood in his body roiled again. He coughed for a while before speaking. Let's not talk about how laughable this method is. You want to force him to come out? He's a tribulation stage elder. If he wants to kill you, he's more than enough. Where do you get the confidence to challenge a tribulation stage elder? Tian Zimming laughed loudly. Old city lord, don't think that I don't know. Every city lord has a city lord seal. The city lord seal has an incomparably powerful ability. It's connected to the aura of the entire city. As long as it's combined with the city protection array, it's enough to trap a tribulation stage cultivator. No matter how powerful that person yesterday is, he's definitely no match for the city lord seal and the city protection array. Bastard! The City Lord Seal and the defensive formation are used to deal with the Yuman clan, not to deal with our own people. The old City Lord's face was red from the atmosphere, which affected his internal injuries. Blood was already flowing to his throat, but he forcefully suppressed it. Also, do you know that if we hand him over to Yuman, our human race will lose a tribulation stage elder? Don't you know what a tribulation stage elder means to our human race? The old city lord shouted. Tian Zimming rubbed his chin, the corners of his eyes filled with ridicule. If he knows all of this, he should understand that if his death alone can save the lives of our entire city, then he should make the sacrifice. That's right, Elder Tian Zimming is right. That's right. The lives of our entire city are more important than his own. That's right. Since he is a senior of the human race, he should have understood that from the perspective of the human race, he should have sacrificed himself for the lives of all the people in the city. His death in exchange for the lives of all of us, he should have died a worthy death. All the cultivators were moved by Tian Zimming's words. The army was pressing down on them. If they wanted to survive, they had to let others die for them. Is this what they mean by dying for a purpose? Mu Yu, who was in the crowd, looked numbly at the furious cultivators around him. He suddenly felt an indescribable chill in his heart. Do I really have to save all the citizens of Eastern Sand City? Mu Yu raised his head and looked at the statue at the city gate. From here, he could see the statue of his master very clearly. When his master was young, he was so free and easy. Even though it was just a statue, he still seemed so aloof, as if he had seen everything in the world. It was very admirable. Master, what would you do in this situation? Mu Yu asked silently in his heart. Chapter 8:22. The crowd agreed with Tian Ziming's words. Mu Yu was in the middle of the self-cultivators and felt very uncomfortable. Xiao Shuai gritted his teeth and said, "It's Stargate scum again. Mu Yu, let's kill him." Mu Yu looked indifferently at Tian Ziming, who was facing off against the old city lord in the sky. He shook his head and said, "I won't be merciful to kill him, but what will happen if we kill him? If we kill him, will these self-cultivators dare to face Yumeng? They wouldn't dare because they were afraid of Yuman. Killing him will at least make me feel better." Little Shuai waved his little fists and gestured. Mu Yu put his hand on Xiao Shuai's shoulder. "You're right. I'll think about it." However, he had more important things to consider. It was very likely that the Yumeng demons had discovered that he had come to this city, so they had come to cause trouble for him. It was also because of him that Eastern Sand City had fallen into such a state. This was his responsibility, and he did not like to shirk his responsibilities. The people in the sky were still facing off. Tian Ziming's words had won the support of most of the self-cultivators. The old city lord said in a deep voice, "Everyone, you must choose to believe in that tribulation stage senior. We don't need that senior to lead us to victory against Yuman. We just need to hold on for 2 days under his leadership. I believe that the reinforcements from the other cities and sects will definitely come to our rescue. Lord Mayor, tell everyone, when will the human reinforcements arrive? Have you already sent people to inform the others?" Tian Ziming asked loudly. Everyone looked at He Jinglong. The matter of the human reinforcements was very urgent. If they couldn't find that mysterious person, then they would have to rely on the self-cultivators from the other cities for help. The 8 gates would also have to send tribulation stage experts. Otherwise, Dongsha City would have no hope at all. He Jinglong looked at Tian Ziming with anger in his eyes. He hesitated for a moment and said, "I have already informed the other city lords. The human race's reinforcements will arrive soon." "City Lord, don't deceive yourself. Yesterday, Yuman's sudden attack caught us off guard. Then, he sealed off Eastern Sand City. Now, let alone a person, not even a fly can fly out. City Lord, can you explain how you notified the other city lords?" Tian Ziming coldly snorted. "Sir City Lord, is this true? The news didn't get out? Does this mean that no reinforcements will come to our aid?" There was another commotion on the street. Everyone looked at He Jinglong in bewilderment, waiting for his response. He Jinglong glared at Tian Ziming. Tian Ziming had been tearing down his stage, and he had been enduring it. His face was not a big deal, but Tian Ziming's words would only lead things to a worse situation. "Tian Ziming, please watch the way you speak. There's no way the other cities didn't notice such a big thing happening." He Jinglong angrily rebuked. In the face of a great enemy, he had lied to all the cultivators about reinforcements to boost their morale so that they wouldn't be too desperate. He thought that even if the human race didn't have any reinforcements, as long as the mysterious senior from yesterday stood up, there would be a chance for things to turn around. But he didn't expect that idiot Tian Ziming to sing a different tune at this time. Moreover, because the other party was an elder of Stargate, his words were even more convincing than the injured He Jinglong. Tian Ziming completely ignored He Jinglong and continued to do his own thing. "I think that everyone needs to know the truth and make the most correct judgment. Since the news can't get out, then we should find a chance to protect ourselves. If the reinforcements don't arrive in 3 days, then we can only wait for death. Right now, everyone agrees to find that person from yesterday and let him face Yuman. Only then can the rest of us survive. I hope that City Lord won't let your emotions affect your decisions. Bastard, this is my city. It's not up to you to tell us what to do." He Jinglong yelled. "Handing him over is the same as compromising with Yuman. Since when did the human race do something so spineless?" You have to know that the human race and Yuman are mortal enemies. There's no such thing as compromising. Lord City Lord, a wise man submits to circumstances. Yuman is coming with a vengeance. We can't stop him at all. Where there's life, there's hope. Sacrificing one person can save the entire city. That's the most important thing. Tian Ziming didn't back down. He Jinglong was enraged. Tian Ziming, what are you thinking? Do you think that Yuman will let us go if we hand that person over? Do you think that Yuman is that trustworthy? If Yuman will really let Eastern Sand City go, then you're wrong. How do you know if you don't try? We've reached an agreement with Yuman for now. As long as we hand that person over, I don't think they'll disagree. You've reached an agreement with Yuman? He Jinglong covered his chest with his hand. He was infuriated by these spineless words. Tian Ziming, you have to pay attention to your identity. We are humans, and there is no such thing as an agreement with the Yumeng Demon clan. Right now we're facing a great enemy. That mysterious person is our trump card. If we anger him and make him hate us, who will we rely on to deal with Yuman? Lord City Lord, it looks like you're seriously injured. Your brain is muddled and you can't even talk or do anything. We need someone who can save Eastern Sand City as the City Lord, not someone who only follows the rules. I'm beginning to suspect that you're in cahoots with Yuman. I don't think you have the right to be the City Lord anymore. Tian Ziming's eyes were cold. You. He Jinglong was furious. Although he wasn't from the Eight Gates, his dignity wasn't something that Tian Ziming could challenge. However, Tian Ziming was right about one thing. He Jinglong was seriously injured. He probably wouldn't even be able to defeat an ordinary cultivator at the first level of the body integration stage, let alone Tian Ziming. That's right. I think we need someone with a reliable cultivation base to be our leader. We think Elder Tian Ziming is a very good candidate. That's right. Tian Ziming is an elder of Stargate. Leading us now is the best choice. The people below all agreed. Everyone agreed with Tian Ziming's words. Because of Tian Ziming's status, Tian Ziming was the most popular choice to become the City Lord. 2 more body integration stage cultivators appeared in the air. One was Zhuang Hong from the Xianling sect, and the other was Leng Qiufeng from the Solitary Fiend sect. When they met Yuman yesterday, they didn't have any intention of fighting. The appearance of the two silenced the crowd once again. These two were also elders of the Eight Gate. Their status and cultivation bases were not to be underestimated. Zhuang Hong cupped his hands towards the old city lord, He Jinglong, and said, "Fellow Taoist He, you were seriously injured yesterday. You don't have to worry about what happens next. Just focus on recuperating. Leave the matters of Eastern Sand City to us, the Eight Gates, to handle." Leng Qiufeng nodded. "That's right. I agree that fellow Taoist Tian Ziming, who has the highest cultivation base right now, will be the temporary city lord. Tian Ziming from the Stargate, Zhuang Hong from the Xianling sect, and Leng Qiufeng from the Solitary Fiend sect. If the old city lord, He Jinglong, who was at the 9th level of the body integration stage, wasn't injured, they wouldn't have dared to seize the city so brazenly. But now they had won the support of all the cultivators. Old City Lord, I'm sorry. I'm doing this for the sake of the entire Eastern Sand City." Tian Ziming sneered. "What do you want?" City Lord He Jinglong was furious. After his injuries were aggravated, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth again. "I want your City Lord's seal." Tian Ziming took a step forward. "You!" The old City Lord spat out a mouthful of blood. He almost couldn't stand straight. "Old City Lord, you should comply with the will of the people and hand it over," Leng Qiufeng said. "That's right. Hand over the City Lord's seal. We don't want to do anything to you," Zhuang Hong said in a low voice. "Hand over the City Lord's seal. You don't deserve to be our City Lord. Hand it over." All the cultivators were shouting angrily. They all blamed He Jinglong and forced him to hand over the City Lord's seal, which could be used to communicate with the City Lord's seal. The old City Lord looked at the cultivators below, and suddenly looked up to the sky and sighed. Sigh. Why has the cultivation world become like this? People's hearts have changed. In the past, in order to kill the yumming devils, the self-cultivators had bravely charged forward, bathed in blood and never retreated. But now, the new generation of self-cultivators had lost the hot-bloodedness of their ancestors and were actually thinking of compromising. Fine. Fine. He shook his head. Then, he stretched out his trembling hand. A palm-sized square seal appeared in his hand. The seal's entire body was emitting golden runes. With its appearance, the entire City Lord's seal trembled slightly. Everyone could feel the changes in the City Lord's seal, because the City Lord's seal treated them as its foundation. The old City Lord looked at the statue of Jian Ing Chen Feng at the city gate and said sadly, "By doing this, you will only disgrace the ancestors of the cultivation world. You will let down Lord Jian Ing Chen Feng." He could no longer keep the City Lord's seal. In the cultivation world, where cultivation was paramount, he, who was heavily injured, could not resist. If someone who was afraid of death wanted him to step down, he had to step down. You don't have to worry about this. Saving the lives of all the cultivators in the city is what the true God wants to see. Tian Zimming sneered and took the City Lord's seal. The old City Lord closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, he slowly landed on the steps outside the City Lord's mansion. His body could no longer hold on. He staggered 2 steps and almost fell. But a hand supported him. "Old mister, be careful," Mu Yu said softly. He Jinglong looked up at Mu Yu and shook his head slightly. Sigh. Mu Yu looked at the old City Lord. He deeply admired the old City Lord's actions. He could have stopped all of this. He could have directly helped the old City Lord and killed Tian Zimming. But he did not do so, because if he did, even if everyone did not dare to say anything, they would still hate him. These people had no fighting spirit in front of Yuman. So what if he showed up? He could not lead a group of cultivators who were afraid of death to fight against Yuman. The old City Lord could not do it either. "Old mister, do you have a family?" For such a hot-blooded old man, his descendants should also be hot-blooded. Mu Yu did not want his descendants to be condemned by everyone. But the old City Lord shook his head. "I am alone. My wife passed away early. My 2 sons were killed by Yuman when they went to the mountain range to investigate Yuman." Chapter 8:23. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought this up. Mu Yu helped the old City Lord away from the noisy crowd. They walked into the City Lord's residence and sat down on a bench in the courtyard. The old City Lord said with a determined expression, "There's nothing wrong with bringing this up. We cultivators have always wanted to fight Yuman to the end. My 2 sons have killed at least dozens of Yuman. They didn't die in vain." At this point, the old City Lord's eyes dimmed again. "It's a pity that I can't fight Yuman to my heart's content on the battlefield. But I think, based on what they've done, Eastern Sand City will be destroyed sooner or later. In my current state, the number of Yuman I can kill is limited." He raised his head and looked at Mu Yu. He sized up the young man and asked, "Are you the same as them?" Mu Yu smiled. "No, I'm the same as you." In front of this respectable old man, Mu Yu showed his true face. He didn't use an illusion array to hide his appearance. The old City Lord nodded approvingly and patted Mu Yu's shoulder. "This is the backbone a young man should have. My brother and I aren't afraid of death. We specialize in fighting evil." Xiao Shuai jumped onto the bench and said with a grin. The old City Lord saw Xiao Shuai's innocent look and laughed. "You're cute, kid. But you don't have any cultivation, and your brother is only in the out-of-body stage. You have to protect yourselves well. When you grow up, you can go kill Yuman. Then he pondered for a moment and asked, "What are your names? Which sect are you from?" Xiao Shui rushed to say, "I'm Xiao Mao and he's De Mao. We don't belong to any sect. We wander the world and call the world our home. We uphold justice and punish evil." Mu Yu shook his head helplessly. The old city lord coughed and asked, "What does Yuman mean to you?" Mu Yu was stunned. He had asked Xian Jingtong's family this question. He didn't expect the old city lord to ask him. What does Yuman mean? Whether it was humans or Yuman, all they wanted was to survive. To survive, they would have to fight for territory. The threefold palace used the conflict between the two races to create a war and absorb the souls of the dead. But putting aside the conspiracy of this war, no matter which race one stood on, since they wanted to live, they should have the right to live. Letting cowards who were afraid of death and ungrateful to live would only bring shame to their own race. Mu Yu found it difficult to answer this question. Mu Yu calmly said, "When I was young, my grandfather said that the Yuman is the enemy. Being an immortal master is to deal with the Yuman and protect the human race. I have never forgotten this. I want to protect the human race." However, there were still some things he didn't say. He was a human, but he had Yuman's ability. When he was young, he was determined to prove that he was a human. No matter what ability he had, he wanted to be a human. Until today, when he saw the true face of the self-cultivators called humans, he suddenly wondered if he was too naive when he was young. Mu Yu continued, "Whether it's humans or Yuman, we have to remember our identity and our responsibility. He was a human and also a Yuman. His identity was very special. His responsibility was to expose the threefold palace's conspiracy, not to end this war, and definitely not to let a group of cowardly self-cultivators live." Mu Yu understood a long time ago that the war between humans and Yuman would never end. As long as they existed, there would be conflict. Mu Yu just didn't want the war to be manipulated by the threefold palace. He didn't want the war to become a tool for the threefold palace to consolidate their power. The old city lord smiled with relief. "You're right. Right now, the younger generation of the cultivation world lacks people like you. We have to remember our identity at all times. The human race will not compromise with Yuman." From the perspective of the human race, the old city lord didn't forget his own identity. Mu Yu smiled and didn't refute. The old city lord sighed. "It's a pity that your cultivation levels are too low. Dongsha City has been ambushed by Yuman this time. I'm afraid that the odds are against you. Once the city's defensive formation can't stop Yuman, you have to think of a way to escape and raise your cultivation levels. When you're strong enough in the future, you can go and kill Yuman." "You want us to leave?" Mu Yu was surprised. "I thought you wanted us to fight Yuman to the end," the old city lord said solemnly. The old mayor said solemnly, "If all the cultivators in East Sand City are brave enough to work together to fight against the Young Devils, you naturally can't be deserters. But right now, the self-cultivators in Dongsha City have lost their fighting spirit. The two of you can't do anything on your own. You should preserve your determination to kill the enemy. In the future, you can fight bravely with even more courageous self-cultivators. Your lives are more precious than the lives of those outside. Do the people outside think the same way? Preserve their strength now so that they can kill the enemy in the future?" Mu Yu asked. The old city lord shook his head. "I've met many self-cultivators. I can't be wrong about people. These people have never thought of fighting Yuman. They're afraid and only want to live. Even if they escape this time, they'll still be cowards in the future. But the two of you are different. You're not afraid of death like those people outside. If you survive, there's still hope for the human race in the future. It's good to be courageous, but the two of you are too weak in front of Yuman." Mu Yu was silent. He could also tell that these self-cultivators' lives were a tragedy. If they could kill Mu Yu, who had helped them. In the future, when they were threatened by Yuman, they might force others to die in their place. The old city lord's eyes glinted with determination. People without backbone are just walking corpses. If they don't want to fight back now, we can't count on them in the future. But the two of you are different. So if it really comes to that, I'll do my best to escort the two of you out. I can't save them, but at least I'll try my best to save the two of you. Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. The old city lord believed that Mu Yu and Mu Yu's cultivation was too low, but they had the right to live. So he was willing to sacrifice himself to protect Mu Yu and Mu Yu. But Mu Yu also felt that there was hope for the human race if people like the old city lord lived. He also wanted to save people like the old city lord. The old city lord sighed again. I couldn't protect my son back then, and it was a regret in my heart. Now that I have nothing to worry about, letting the two of you leave alive is the last thing I can do in my old age. But I hope the two of you can promise me that if you escape, you won't be afraid of death in the future. You must have the courage to fight Yuman. The old city lord's expression was very serious. He couldn't convince those selfish people outside, but there were two youngsters with good temperament in front of him. He wanted to do something. Xiao Shuai laughed. Ah, old man, you're such a good person. But we. Mu Yu interrupted Xiao Shuai. We'll remember old Mister's words. Although the two of us have no one to rely on, we at least understand that as cultivators, we must have a backbone. I admire old Mister's character. We won't let old Mister die for us. When the boat reaches the bridgehead, it'll cross the bridge. We can't give up any chance until the very end. The old city lord laughed and looked at Mu Yu again. He nodded. Not bad, not bad. You're very much to this old man's liking. Since the two of you say you have no one to rely on and no sect, then I wonder if the two of you are willing to take this old man as your master? What? Take you as our master? Xiao Shuai made a fuss about nothing. A very strange expression appeared on his face. He almost laughed out loud, but Mu Yu covered his mouth. The old city lord smiled. That's right. Although Yuman is eyeing us covetously, if the two of you take me as your master, I'll do my best to teach you everything I know in the next 2 days. As for how much you can learn, it'll depend on your luck. At this juncture, if you can learn a little more, you'll have a better chance of survival. Are the two of you willing? The old city lord, He Jinglong, was at the 9th layer of the body integration stage. Even though he was seriously injured, his strength as a 9th layer body integration stage expert was genuine. He saw that Mu Yu and Xiao Shuai didn't forget their original intentions and dared to fight against Yuman in this situation. This was why he cherished their talents. In his opinion, his cultivation base at the 9th heavenly stage of the body integration stage was more than enough to be the master of these two. He also hoped that if the Yu Meng devilish race breached the city, these two brothers would have an extra life-saving skill. Unfortunately, the old city lord didn't know who the two people in front of him were. If he knew that Mu Yu was the person who saved the city yesterday, the old city lord would definitely be shocked. He would also feel embarrassed about what he had just said. Xiao Shuai desperately wanted to laugh and tell the old city lord, "You can't teach us. We're better than you." However, Mu Yu didn't let Xiao Shuai speak. He didn't think that the old city lord was overestimating himself. At the very least, he admired the old city lord's character. Mu Yu politely replied, "It's naturally our honor to be able to receive guidance from the old mister. However, before we take you as our master, this one has a question that I'd like to ask the old mister." "There's no harm in asking." The old city lord coughed twice and panted heavily. Mu Yu reached out and patted his back. Dongsha City was besieged by Yuman. Mu Yu could have saved these people, but these people were ungrateful and cowardly. They even wanted to hand Mu Yu over and compromise with Yuman. Mu Yu didn't want to save these people from the bottom of his heart. However, Could he coldly watch as Dongsha City was massacred by Yuman? Mu Yu calmly asked, Old Mister, I hope that you can think from the perspective of the person involved. If you were the mysterious person with the tribulation stage cultivation from yesterday and you saved these people, but they still wanted to attack you and hand you over to Yuman so that you could die, what would you do? Would you continue to save these people, or would you choose to stand by and let these people perish on their own? The old city lord was an admirable person. He was also a wise man who understood righteousness. He had more life experience than Mu Yu. Like Mu Yu, he also looked down on the cowards outside. Now, he was forced to give up his position as city lord by these cowards. The old city lord was also the one being attacked. Since this was the old city lord's city, he wanted the old city lord to make the decision. Chapter 8:24. If the old city lord still wanted to save them, Mu Yu would do it. If he gave up on someone like the old city lord, then there was no need to save these people. The old city lord probably never thought that the lives of the entire city would be tied to his decision. He didn't even know how important his decision was. The old city lord smiled bitterly and said, You've given me a difficult problem. He was forced to give up his position as the city lord, which was equivalent to these self-cultivators abandoning him. The old city lord was unwilling to accept this and was extremely disappointed in these self-cultivators who were afraid of death. But if he had the ability, what would he do? The old city lord sighed and said, I'm not the tribulation passing expert from yesterday, so I don't dare to use my narrow-minded mentality to try to figure out the senior's thoughts. I don't have the qualifications. The old city lord didn't know that the senior he was talking about was right in front of him. He simply thought that he didn't have the qualifications to compare himself to the senior. However, this senior expert believed that the old city lord was qualified to do so. Mu Yu said seriously, Old Mister, don't look down on yourself. In my opinion, you're the most admirable person in this city. Why don't you try to think about it from his point of view and look at this matter from his point of view? If you were the tribulation passing expert, and now you're being attacked by a group of cowards, what would you do? Would you continue to think of ways to save them, or not? The old city lord patted Mu Yu's shoulder and shook his head. You child, are my thoughts that important? After all, we're two different people. Our thoughts may not be the same. Mu Yu's eyes glowed. Maybe your thoughts are the thoughts of that mysterious person. My thoughts? Sigh. The old city lord looked at Tian Ziming, who was already activating the city lord's seal in the sky. His eyes flashed with anger as he said, To be honest, although if I were the senior, and I was attacked by cowards like this, I would definitely choose not to do anything and let them fend for themselves. Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. So you think that these people should be killed by Yuman? The old city lord nodded his head. Ungrateful cowards who are afraid of death, there is no meaning in living. Help them once, and they don't know how to be grateful. People who don't know how to be grateful don't need to help a second time. They will only drag others down. Mu Yu agreed with the old city lord's words. If even the old city lord had made this decision, then Mu Yu would also respect his decision and watch with folded arms. But, at this point, the old city lord's expression turned serious. Mu Yu silently waited for the old city lord to continue. However, I also know that the Yuming demons were lured here by that senior expert. If I were that senior, and I caused the Eastern Sand City to fall into danger because of me, no matter how ungrateful these people are, I would still think that I should go and save them. Oh! Mu Yu's gaze never left the old city lord's eyes. He wanted to see something from the old man's eyes. Those are two different things. If this matter is my responsibility, then I must bear it. This has nothing to do with their attitude, but with my principles. If Yuman didn't come here because of me, even if these cowards died in front of me, I wouldn't even frown. But since I was the one who lured Yuman here, then I must take responsibility until the end. The old city lord's words were very firm. I understand. Mu Yu nodded silently. The old city lord laughed self-deprecatingly. Of course, saying this makes me seem a little self-righteous. I am not that powerful senior, so no matter how he handles this matter, I will respect him. Mu Yu smiled. Old city lord, perhaps what you said is the answer he wants to hear. The old city lord shook his head helplessly. I hope so. Sigh. Young man, why am I talking nonsense with you? Right, you two haven't replied yet. Are you willing to take me as your master? As he spoke, he coughed violently again. Mu Yu smiled slightly. Old sir, in this situation, you should first recuperate from your injuries. When you're better, we'll take you as our master. It just so happens that the two of us have learned some healing techniques by chance. We can help you treat it first. The old city lord waved his hand. Yesterday, the city's defensive formation had been in disrepair for a long time, causing me to suffer great injuries. I've already asked 100 Herb Hall's Master Jing to take a look. He gave me a pill, but unfortunately, my injuries are too serious. It's far from what you can imagine with your cultivation. Don't bother. Old man, don't look down on people. Xiao Shuai stretched out his hand and patted the old city lord's back. A stream of pure spiritual energy immediately entered the old city lord's body. Little baby you, the old city lord was shocked. He didn't expect that a child who looked like he was only 4 or 5 years old could actually inject such a rich spiritual energy into his body. This was something he had never seen before. What shocked him the most was that after this spiritual energy entered his body, it seemed to have its own consciousness and began to wander through the meridians of his body, dealing with the bruises in his body. Who exactly are you? The old city lord looked at Xiao Shuai in disbelief. Old sir, it's more important for you to refine that spiritual energy to heal your injuries first. Mu Yu reminded him. The old city lord was stunned for a moment. Then, he sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to regulate his breathing. Xiao Shuai's spiritual energy was very pure and was really rare in the world. If he could refine it, then even if his injuries couldn't be healed immediately, they would be much better. Mu Yu looked at the old city lord who had already entered a state of cultivation and sighed in his heart. He admired a person like the old city lord, but there were very few people like him. Xian Jingtang's family was one, and so was the old city lord. Perhaps there were still such people in Dongsha City, but Mu Yu couldn't find them one by one. Alright, this spiritual energy is enough for him to use for a while. I think he will need to spend 2 or 3 days to refine it. Xiao Shuai clapped his hands and stood up. Originally, healing people had always been Mu Yu's strength. However, after his killing power entered his body, his spiritual energy was filled with a bone-chilling coldness. It was very difficult for ordinary people to refine it, so he could only ask Xiao Shuai for help. What are we going to do next? Are we going to kill Tian Ziming? Xiao Shuai asked. Mu Yu pondered for a moment and said, Think of a way to help them. You want to save them? Xiao Shuai asked unhappily. Mu Yu took out a few bottles of 6th-tier healing pills and placed them beside the old city lord. Then, he said, It's not me who wants to save them, but the old city lord. Mu Yu let the old city lord make the decision for him. If the old city lord decided to save them, then Mu Yu would save them. Although he didn't want to save them, he would rather these people be killed. However, when he was surrounded by killing, Mu Yu understood that every decision he made wasn't necessarily right. He needed someone to point him in the right direction. Moreover, there was one thing that Mu Yu couldn't deny from the old city lord's words. He was the one who had attracted Yuman. I understand the logic, but these people are annoying. Xiao Shuai curled his lips. Me too, so I will find a place where there is no one and kill Tian Ziming. The people from Stargate aren't among the people I want to save. Mu Yu looked at Tian Ziming, who was still talking smugly in the sky. The killing intent in his eyes didn't decrease at all. Xiao Shuai tilted his head curiously and asked, "Then how are we going to save them? Have you thought about it?" Mu Yu looked at the defense formation in Tian Ziming's hand and said, "The defense formation isn't that simple. This kind of defense formation isn't only used for defense, it can also be used for offense." Offense? Yes, it can gather the spiritual energy in a self-cultivator's body for defense, and it can also gather the spiritual energy in a self-cultivator's body for offense. It can also absorb Yuman's attack and turn it into its own. The defense formation's function is far beyond our imagination, Mu Yu said. Wow. How come I didn't know about it? Xiao Shuai felt as if he had found a new toy and became excited. However, after a while, he asked curiously, if the defense formation is so powerful, why does it seem like this old man doesn't know how to use it? It's not that he doesn't know how to use it, but that the defense formation's abilities are all ineffective, Mu Yu said in a deep voice. Ineffective? Is it because it's been in disrepair for a long time? Xiao Shuai asked. Mu Yu shook his head. No, I feel like it's been sabotaged by someone. If it's been in disrepair for a long time, the spiritual energy will disappear, and the defense formation will lose a lot of its runes. There are very few people who can tamper with the defense formation. Many thoughts flashed through Mu Yu's mind, but he had no way to prove them. Then do we also need to rely on that annoying Tian Ziming's Castellan seal? Xiao Shuai looked at Tian Ziming in the air with disgust. Mu Yu looked at Tian Ziming indifferently and snorted softly. After setting up a warning formation around the old city lord, he disappeared from the city lord's mansion. After Tian Ziming received the Castellan seal, he was in high spirit. Everyone, thank you for your kindness. Since the old city lord is seriously injured and can't lead us, then I will temporarily be in charge of all matters in Eastern Sand City. The first thing we need to do now is find the person that Yuman wants to capture and hand him over to Yuman in exchange for a chance at survival for Eastern Sand City. I agree. Capture that person. The self-cultivators were in an uproar again. In order to survive, many people didn't care about their hatred for Yuman. They just wanted to hand the person over to quell this sudden disaster. There were also some people in the crowd who didn't support Tian Ziming's actions. Like the old city lord, they thought that at this juncture, they should rely on the mysterious person from yesterday. Tian Ziming's actions were completely ridiculous. However, Tian Ziming was an elder of Stargate, and his cultivation was the highest in Eastern Sand City. With the support of the two elders from the Xianling sect and the Solitary Fiend sect, more and more people agreed with Tian Ziming's point of view. Thus, even if they disliked Tian Ziming's actions, they didn't stand out to say anything. After obtaining the Castellan seal, Tian Ziming began to use it to search for Mu Yu. The Castellan seal was closely connected to the defensive array. Now that all the self-cultivators above the nascent soul stage in the city had become the foundation of the defensive array, Tian Ziming believed that the mysterious person from yesterday must be one as well. As long as he used the Castellan seal to control the defensive array, he would be able to find the mysterious person's location. However, no matter how hard he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out what kind of existence the person he was looking for was. Tian Ziming had already started his search with his supporters. The entire Eastern Sand City was in an uproar. Every self-cultivator was impassioned. With Tian Ziming as the center, they were prepared to find the mysterious person who was in the tribulation stage. Then, Tian Ziming would use the Castellan seal to trap the mysterious person in the tribulation stage and force him to face Yuman alone. The noise outside was so loud that it woke the old city lord up. The old city lord refined a trace of spiritual energy and felt that the chaotic injuries in his body were gradually being suppressed. He also had doubts about Mu Yu's identity. He couldn't help but open his eyes and ask, "Young friend, can you tell me who you are?" The old city lord had a feeling that these two children weren't simple. However, when he opened his eyes, he realized that there was no one around. Mu Yu had already disappeared without a trace. He was filled with doubts because he had clearly sensed that the two extraordinary brothers were here. When did they leave? Then, the old city lord saw a few bottles of elixirs beside him. He opened the bottle caps in confusion. A mellow medicinal fragrance wafted into his nose. He almost exclaimed, "Sixth-grade elixirs?" He confirmed once again that they were indeed sixth-grade elixirs. He was extremely shocked. Sixth-grade elixirs were very difficult to buy, but there were as many as 3 in the bottles. These were left behind by those two children, De Mao and Xiao Mao? The old city lord stood up in disbelief and looked around. He even ran out of the city lord's residence to look for traces of Mu Yu and Xiao Shuai. However, there was no one outside the city lord's residence. All the self-cultivators who had gathered had already followed Tian Ziming to the city gate tower. But how is this possible? What kind of people are those two children? Why would they help me? The old city lord looked at the elixirs in his hand, puzzled. Suddenly, his eyes widened. Could it be that young man is that mysterious expert at the tribulation passing stage? He remembered what Mu Yu had asked him just now. The other party had asked him what he should do if he was that expert at the tribulation passing stage. The old city lord was a little puzzled by Mu Yu's question from the beginning, but he didn't think much of it. However, now that he thought about it, it seemed, maybe what I said was the answer he wanted to hear? The old city lord remembered what Mu Yu had said to him. So, he came to me to clear his doubts? It must be De Mao and Xiao Mao. I'm really old and muddle-headed. How could I even believe in such a made-up name? The old city lord patted his forehead. When he thought about how he had looked down on the other party just now and even wanted to take him as his disciple, his face was still a little hot. No wonder these two children were so calm when I wanted to take them as my disciples. They weren't excited at all. It turns out that their cultivation has long surpassed mine. In the face of a person at the 9th heaven of the unification stage, who wanted to take him as his disciple, ordinary young people should feel flattered. However, Mu Yu and Xiao Shuai were too calm. If that's the case, then what is he going to do now? The old city lord was apprehensive again. He was worried that he had misled the young man's thoughts and felt uneasy. Chapter 825. At this time, Tian Ziming had already become the new city lord of Dongsha City due to his strength and prestige. He led all the citizens of the city to the top of the city gates, preparing to use the city lord's seal to control the city defense array to find the mysterious person from yesterday. Tian Ziming clearly knew how to use the city lord's seal. The city lord's seal shone with a powerful light in his hand and instantly merged with the city defense array. The entire city defense array's runes also began to flow like mysterious water ripples. Everyone felt the runes in their bodies being activated and connected with the city defense array. The city defense array's array foundation was not only made up of cultivators above the nascent soul stage, but also all the citizens of the city. Even mortals with no cultivation became a part of the array foundation. Yesterday, He Jinglong had only gathered cultivators above the nascent soul stage because they were the main focus. There were too many people left and it would be difficult to deploy them, so he did not directly let them participate. However, later on, those who had not reached the nascent soul stage also became the array foundation. The city lord's seal shone brightly, and suddenly, a hazy golden fog appeared in the air, making it difficult to see through. In this hazy fog, there were countless specks of starlight. The brightness of these specks of starlight was not uniform, and each speck represented a person in Dongsha City. The brighter the speck of starlight, the stronger the person was. Found it! Tian Ziming quickly saw the brightest star among the dazzling specks of starlight. It was emitting a blazing and dazzling light, and within the light, there was an unparalleled killing intent. Everyone was pleasantly surprised, and they all wanted to see who this person was. "Let me reveal your true identity." A rune appeared in Tian Ziming's hand, and he quickly grabbed at the brightest star. All the cultivators below the city gate were also waiting for Tian Ziming. As long as Tian Ziming used the city defense array to trap this transcending tribulation stage cultivator and handed him over to the Yu Meng demon clan, the crisis of Eastern Sand City would be resolved. However, just as Tian Ziming's runes wrapped around the star suddenly erupted with an incomparably terrifying killing intent, instantly crashing into Tian Ziming's body. Tian Ziming's complexion changed. This sort of terrifying killing intent was something he couldn't resist. Bastard! A blue light suddenly appeared in front of Tian Ziming's chest, blocking the attack. Bang! Tian Ziming heavily retreated and stabilized his footing in the air. At this time, the dazzling star had already disappeared. What's going on? Where is that person? Wasn't he unable to resist the City Lord's seal? The people waiting at the city gate were all bewildered. Tian Ziming coldly glanced at everyone present, then found the old City Lord's figure in the crowd and shouted, "He Jinglong, the City Lord's seal didn't display enough power, it was you who secretly tampered with it." "What? He Jinglong actually dares to do this? As the previous City Lord, he dared to go against us and disregard the lives of the people in the city. Arrest him." When all the cultivators heard Tian Ziming's words, they immediately became angry and pointed their spears at the old City Lord, He Jinglong. The old City Lord had just rushed to the city gate tower to check on the situation. He didn't know what had happened, but he found that everyone was looking at him angrily. "Tian Ziming, what nonsense are you talking about? When did I tamper with the City Lord's seal?" The old City Lord shouted angrily. He didn't know about this at all, and Tian Ziming inexplicably added a crime to his name. Tian Ziming snorted and shouted, "He Jinglong, don't play dumb with me. The power of the City Lord's seal is known to all of us from the 8 gates. If we gather the strength of the entire city, we are confident that we can trap a person in the tribulation stage. However, that person almost killed me just now. If I didn't have a secret technique to protect my body, I'm afraid I would have died in that person's hands. What are your intentions?" "What intentions do I have? I really feel sorry for all of you." The old City Lord laughed loudly, but his eyes were filled with grief and indignation. This Tian Ziming was really stupid. Tian Ziming shouted coldly, "As the previous City Lord, you tampered with the City Lord's seal and protected that person. You deserve to die. Fellow Taoist Zhuang Hong, fellow Taoist Ling Qiufeng, the two of you kill him as a warning." Zhuang Hong said hesitantly, "City Lord, that's not very good, right? After all, he is the old City Lord. If we kill him now," Tian Ziming said sternly, "as the current City Lord, I have to be responsible for the lives of all the people in the city. The reason why the City Lord's seal didn't unleash its full power is because the owner of the City Lord's seal is still him. If he deliberately goes against us, then the people in the city will die." Tian Ziming glanced at everyone and said, "If he is not willing to hand over the City Lord's seal to us, then we must kill him. Otherwise, the City Lord's seal won't change owners, and we will be killed by Yuman." Everyone on the city gate tower was furious. They stared at the old City Lord with hatred and began to curse. "You old thief, are you trying to trap us in an unrighteous place? Kill this shameless old thief. Kill him and we can capture that person. Yes, kill this old thief." In order to survive, everyone roared angrily and surrounded the old City Lord. Some people even spat at him, and some people even threw things at him. The old City Lord stood alone in the crowd. Everyone avoided him, and he felt an unprecedented sorrow in his heart. Zhuang Hong and Ling Qiufeng looked at each other. Then, they stood up and said, Taoist He, I advise you not to go against the entire city. Hand over the complete method of using the City Lord's seal, and we can spare your life. Spare my life? The old City Lord looked up at the sky and laughed bitterly. He shook his head sadly. What is wrong with this world? He remembered that he had just made a decision for that young man. Now that he thought about it, it seemed a little laughable. Forget it. What's so hard about wanting me dead? You don't have to do it. I will end it myself. A flying sword appeared in the old City Lord's hand. The sword flashed with a cold light. He gently stroked the sword, and his face was filled with endless sorrow. You were supposed to be used to kill Yuman. I always wanted to use Yuman's blood to nourish you, but I didn't expect. The blood that stained you in the end came from my body. The old City Lord raised his head and looked around at the curses directed at him. His heart had long since sunk to the bottom of the valley. When would this group of people understand that the Yu Meng Devil Clan would not show mercy to them? When would they understand that the blood of the human race could not be forgotten? Perhaps it would never happen again. He looked up at the sky, at the Yuman outside the defensive formation. Those Yuman looked like they were watching a joke, watching the ugly actions of the Dongsha City cultivators. The people of Dongsha City did not want to fight with the Yuman outside. Instead, they wanted to force their own people to die. Hurry up and die. Don't waste our time. We still have to find the person Yuman wants. That's right. The cultivators all urged passionately from the side. Can't wait for me to die. He Jinglong, have lived a magnanimous life. I had the determination to kill Yuman, but in the end I can only kill myself. Ah! The old City Lord slowly closed his eyes. He raised the sword in his hand and slashed it across his own neck. Sigh. A sigh came from the crowd. A ray of light flashed past the old City Lord's side. In the blink of an eye, the old City Lord had already disappeared from everyone's sight. What happened? Where's that old thief? He's gone? Who saved him? It must be that mysterious person. The two of them really know each other. That old thief is protecting that person. Catch him. Seeing the old City Lord He Jinglong suddenly disappear, all the cultivators roared with indignation. They looked around, trying to find the old City Lord, but there was nothing. Tian Ziming's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He did not expect that He Jinglong would be saved right under his nose. This was simply a provocation to him, the new City Lord. Find He Jinglong for me. Tian Ziming roared angrily. In the empty alley, 3 figures appeared. The old City Lord sat in the corner, his face haggard. Mu Yu stood in front of him, silent. After a long time, the old City Lord raised his head and looked at the young man in front of him. He smiled bitterly. That person is really you? Mu Yu looked at the old City Lord's turbid and sorrowful eyes. He felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Your sword. Xiao Shuai handed the flying sword to the old City Lord and said, Grandpa, the sword is used to kill villains, not to kill yourself. The old City Lord took the sword from Xiao Shuai and smiled bitterly. You're right. After a moment of silence, Mu Yu said, You're a good person. The ones who should die should be them, not you. A good person? The old City Lord looked up to the sky and sighed. It's hard to be a good person. When I asked you, if you were me, what would you do? You gave me an answer. Mu Yu said. The old City Lord smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, I offended you. I didn't know at that time. I don't have the qualifications to boast in front of you. You said you wanted to save them, so I wanted to save them. Mu Yu said. The old City Lord's lips squirmed twice, but he didn't say anything. But do you still want to save them now? Mu Yu asked. Everyone in the city pointed their spears at the old City Lord. They wanted to kill him so that Tian Ziming could control the complete City Lord seal. His life and death were not worth mentioning in the eyes of those people. The old city lord lowered his head. Whether I want to or not, what does it matter now? It matters. They want to kill you now. You are already in charge, but if you still want to save them now, I will, Mu Yu said seriously. The old city lord was stunned. He looked at Mu Yu again and looked into his eyes, trying to see something in Mu Yu's eyes, but Mu Yu's gaze was calm. Why? Is my opinion that important to you? I'm just a useless old man, an old man who is despised by others. Why do you believe me? The old city lord was puzzled. Mu Yu said, because this is your city. You have the right to decide their life and death. The old city lord laughed self-deprecatingly. This is no longer my city. Now, even I can't protect myself. As the city lord of a city, he was despised by the cowardly people of the city. He no longer had any prestige as the city lord. So you've given up on them? Mu Yu said. I'm confident that I can use the city protecting formation and the city lord's seal to fight against Yuman, but if you give up, I will give up too. Chapter 8:26. The old city lord panted heavily as he looked at Mu Yu's young face that seemed to have weathered countless storms. A strange light appeared in his eyes. Although this old man's eyes are bad, I can still see that you are not an indecisive person. Why did you put this decision in my hands? I'm afraid it is not as simple as this being my city. Mu Yu nodded. The old city lord's eyes were very accurate. I'm afraid that the decision I make will be wrong, Mu Yu said honestly. He did not want to save the people of this city. He felt that these people were not worth saving. He would rather these 100,000 people be killed by Yuman. But when he had this thought, he would feel shocked. This kind of thought was unreasonable. He was afraid that he had this kind of feeling because of the power of slaughter. When the power of slaughter surrounded him, his heart was filled with hostility. He was afraid that any decision he made would be wrong, so he used Xian Jingtong's family as a standard to balance his view of right and wrong. He wanted to let the old city lord, who was a brave and responsible person, make this kind of life and death decision for him. The old city lord sighed. You put the lives of 100,000 people in Dongsha City in my hands. I am flattered. This was a heavy responsibility. The lives of 100,000 people were in everyone's hands. It was difficult for anyone to make a decision. I'm afraid that I will make a mistake, but I believe that old Mr. will not make a mistake. Mu Yu had been hiding his killing intent. He had wanted to kill Tian Ziming, but he knew that once he started killing people, he would not be able to stop. If one Tian Ziming fell, there would be a second Tian Ziming standing up. He could only keep on killing until he killed the last person in the city who wanted to suppress him. So he restrained his killing intent and did not immediately kill Tian Ziming. He needed the old city lord's guidance. I won't make a mistake? The old city lord closed his eyes and took a deep breath. If even someone like you will give up on them, then I will give up on them. I need to find where my bottom line is, Mu Yu said seriously. He wanted to avoid being controlled by the power of slaughter. The old city lord closed his eyes. The moment he closed his eyes, his mind was filled with the ugly faces of those ungrateful, greedy, and cowardly self-cultivators. Those who cursed him, those who wanted to kill him, and those who wanted to compromise with Yuman, made his heart ache. He felt as if the world was covered in dust and filth. The people in the entire city seemed so ridiculous and spineless. These people did not deserve to live at all. Their existence was the sorrow of the human race. I'm sorry, but I can't make this decision for you. Murky tears flowed from the old city lord's eyes. He couldn't go against his conscience. Mu Yu had given him this decision, so he had to be responsible for it. Both of them had a scale in their hearts. The lives of 100,000 people were as insignificant as a feather on this scale. They were not worth mentioning at all. What this scale truly measured was their own principles and beliefs, which were much more important than the lives of 100,000 people. The old city lord did not have the courage to pick up the scale. Muyu also could not grasp the scale. I understand. Muyu nodded. The old city lord looked at Muyu. I'm sorry. You've already given me your answer. Let's go. Muyu helped the old city lord up and wiped the mark of the city protection array off the old city lord's body. Can you tell me who you are? The old city lord asked tiredly. I'm Muyu. Muyu? You're Muyu? The old city lord's body shook. He smiled bitterly. So you're the disciple of a true god. I was blind and overestimated myself. I actually wanted to take you as my disciple. I've made a fool of myself. No, you're worthy of my respect. Muyu supported the old city lord and prepared to leave the alley. But at this moment, he suddenly frowned. He turned around and saw that there was no one in the alley. His eyes flashed with doubt. What's wrong? Did they chase after us? The old city lord scanned the alley and did not find anything unusual. Muyu shook his head. Let's go. Let's go to the Mystic Beast workshop. Old mister, you can't show your face in public anymore. The three figures disappeared into the alley once again. Not long after they left, a figure slowly appeared in the alley. Did they notice me? At the end of the alley, a figure stood in the corner as if he had been standing there for a long time. What are you going to do? He stared at the direction where Muyu disappeared and heard the vehement curses from afar. A gust of wind blew and his figure also disappeared. Muyu brought the old city lord back to the Mystic Beast workshop. Xian Zhengtang and his family were waiting for Muyu. They were relieved when they saw Muyu return. Young master, you're back. Fortunately, I thought. Xian Zhengtang suddenly saw the old city lord beside Muyu and quickly shut his mouth in time. He said in surprise, City lord? The incident in Eastern Sand City had caused an uproar. It was impossible for Xian Zhengtang to not know. I'm no longer a city lord. The old city lord shook his head. Xian Zhengtang thought of something and quickly said, That's right, young master, you should quickly protect the old city lord. The elders of the Star Gate outside flew into a rage out of humiliation. They are leading the entire city to search from house to house to find the old city lord. The old city lord glanced at Xian Zhengtang and was slightly moved. When Xian Zhengtang saw him, he was not worried that he would be implicated, but that he would be persecuted. It turned out that there were still some sensible people. I understand, Uncle Xian. I'll have to trouble you to keep the matter of the old city lord a secret, Muyu said. Xian Jingtang said with a solemn face, Young master, don't worry. The old city lord is a good person. We will definitely keep our mouths shut. That's right. We are not afraid of death like them. Young master, please tell us how you want to protect the old city lord. Xian Sitong also said solemnly. Many thanks. The old city lord said gratefully. When everyone in the city wanted to kill him, Xian Jingtong's family was willing to protect him. This made the old city lord understand that not everyone in Eastern Sand City was ungrateful. Muyu thought for a moment and asked, Is there any place in Eastern Sand City that is absolutely safe? The old city lord shook his head. If Tian Ziming wants to search from house to house, he will use the strength of the entire city. No matter where he hides, it won't be safe. Lord Muyu, I think you shouldn't bother. I don't want to implicate you. Lord Muyu? Old City Lord, what did you just say? Muyu? Xian Jingtang looked at the old city lord in shock, then looked at Muyu. The old city lord was stunned. You don't know? Xian Jingtang, Xian Sitong, and Qi Shan looked at each other. But young master, you really are. Xian Jingtang was shocked. I'm sorry. I thought they knew your identity. The old city lord was a little flustered. He knew that he had accidentally let it slip. Muyu was silent for a moment. It's okay. It's fine if they know. They can trust me. Heavens! No wonder. No wonder. I knew that young master wasn't an ordinary person. You are actually a true God's disciple. I'm really shocked. Xian Jingtang thought back to when he first met Mu Yu. He had easily killed the 6th and 7th rank demonic beasts, and then Mu Yu had cleanly cut off the head of the Earth Imperial Sex Yi Feiying. How could someone with such strength be an unknown person? Xian Sitong and Qi Shan were also shocked. The two of them looked at Mu Yu with more respect. I don't want others to know my identity, Mu Yu said. Young master, don't worry. Even if we have to risk our lives, we will keep it a secret for you. Xian Jingtang nodded solemnly. His mind was filled with thoughts. Who would have thought that he would meet a true God's disciple when he accidentally entered the forest to hunt demonic beasts? This was a famous genius on the supreme immortal ranking. He was really lucky to meet Mu Yu that day. Mu Yu said, "Let Tian Ziming do whatever he wants. I will protect you." Then he said to Xian Jingtang, "That's right, Uncle Xian. Help me check where Tian Ziming and his men are searching. Come back and report to me." "Yes, young master." Xian Jingtang didn't ask any more questions. He quickly jumped up and headed out of the profound beast workshop. "Old mister, I will cast a formation on you to hide your true face. Go change your clothes and hide in the crowd. Don't make a sound." The formation pattern in Mu Yu's hand surged again and stuck to the old city lord's face. He also cast the 100 Faces illusion formation on the old city lord's face and disguised it as an unfamiliar middle-aged man. "Will there be any problems with this formation?" Xian Sitong asked softly. "What I mean is, Tian Ziming is the city lord of Eastern Sand City. His cultivation is very high. Sorry, I forgot that you are a true God's disciple." Xian Sitong smiled embarrassedly. In front of Mu Yu, what was a Tian Ziming? "Don't worry, people like him won't be able to see through it," Mu Yu said. The old city lord quickly changed into a new set of clothes. Mu Yu also used an array technique to cover up his aura. It was as if he had turned into another person. "Thank you, my lord." The old city lord bowed. "Old mister, you don't have to be so polite. I will protect the people I need to protect." Mu Yu helped the old city lord up and said, "If someone rushes in to search later, just blend in with the crowd and don't make a sound. If someone asks, just say that you are an employee of the Profound Beast Workshop." "Yes." The old city lord nodded. "Old mister, please go to the room to heal your injuries first," Mu Yu said. Xian Sitong hurriedly helped the old city lord to another room. Only Mu Yu and Little Shuai were left in the courtyard. Little Shuai sat on the table and looked at Mu Yu curiously. "So? Mu Yu, what is your decision now?" Mu Yu sat down and looked up at Yaman, who was still glaring at the sky above Eastern Sand City. He then said, "The old city lord's decision is my decision." But he didn't say anything just now. Little Shuai said, puzzled. He said it. When the old city lord said that he couldn't make a decision for Mu Yu already understood what the old city lord's decision was. Chapter 8:27. The entire city was in an uproar. Mu Yu saved the old city lord in front of everyone and angered the entire city. They all wanted to kill the old city lord and let Tian Ziming completely control the city lord seal. Only then would Tian Ziming be able to use the city lord seal and the city protection array to trap the mysterious tribulation passing stage cultivator. This group of idiots thought that as long as they worked together, they wouldn't have to worry about the mysterious tribulation passing stage cultivator attacking them with the prestige of the 8 Gate. Therefore, they became even more unscrupulous. However, they didn't know that they were still alive because Mu Yu didn't want to kill people in front of everyone. Now, every time Mu Yu killed someone, the evil aura in his heart would flourish and the power of killing would have a deeper influence on him. Once he started killing, he would fall into an ice-cold massacre. He would continue killing, and if Little Commander didn't stop him, the entire city would be killed by him. Therefore, Mu Yu restrained himself. This also gave this group of people who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a reason to be even more unscrupulous. Every house and every corner of Eastern Sand City was searched. They searched everywhere for the old city lord's whereabouts. Because Eastern Sand City was trapped by Yumon's 5 elements formation, the old city lord must still be in the city. As long as they gathered the strength of the entire city, the old city lord would have nowhere to hide and would definitely be captured and killed by them. In order to survive, this group of self-cultivators could send others to their death. Their passion had always been used to deal with their own people. Soon, Tian Ziming led the self-cultivators into the Mystic Beast workshop. The old city lord lowered his head and blended into the crowd, protected by Mu Yu behind him. Xian Jingtong's family also looked at this group of self-cultivators with fear and trepidation, allowing them to search. These self-cultivators were very barbaric. After they rushed in, they didn't care about anything else. They opened every door and directly searched for people. They didn't even let Madame Xian, who was lying on the bed and being devoured by the heavenly fire, off. She was chased into the courtyard to be interrogated. "What's covering your hand?" Tian Ziming stared at Madame Xian's hand. Because Madame Xian was holding a frost stone, it attracted Tian Ziming's attention. Xian Jingtang hurriedly stood up and respectfully said, "Sir, my wife was attacked by the heaven-rank Hui Yu Meng outside Eastern Sand City last month. The flames have not been extinguished yet. This is a frost stone, it can reduce the pain." Madame Xian showed the flame in her hand to everyone. Everyone frowned when they saw the flame in Madame Xian's hand. Why did Hui Yumeng only attack you when there were so many others? Are you also the person Yuman is looking for? Tian Ziming coldly snorted. Xian Jingtong's expression changed when he heard this, and he hurriedly said, "Sir, you've misunderstood. At that time, Hui Yumeng attacked many people, and many people died because of it. We were far away, so we were spared. Many people know about this. If you don't believe me, you can ask others." Soon, a cultivator walked out from behind and whispered a few words in Tian Ziming's ear, confirming this point. Fire Yaman had been frequently appearing near Eastern Sand City since a few months ago. A while ago, it had indeed attacked many cultivators. At that time, Xian Jingtang and his wife had been hunting demonic beasts when they encountered Hui Yumeng. However, Tian Ziming coldly said, "The Hui Yumeng devil clan attacked us. With their methods, they won't let any Xiationists go. Only your wife survived. Does your wife mean something to them?" Xian Jingtang earnestly said, "Sir, my wife and I are both from small sections. We have been in Eastern Sand City for many years. We are just ordinary cultivators. If you insist on saying what we mean to the Yuman, then I'm afraid we are enemies. Sir, please understand." Tian Ziming swept his eyes over everyone and said, "The Yu Meng demon clan has always killed without batting an eyelid. You surviving at their hands is most likely a humiliation to them. Perhaps they decided to attack Eastern Sand City out of anger. You cannot absolve yourself from the blame." "Sir, what are you talking about? Are we cultivators only right to be killed by the Yuman?" Xian Jingtang was enraged by Tian Ziming's words. His wife was suffering because of Hui Yumeng. He hated the Yuman to the core, but he didn't expect Tian Ziming to say such irresponsible words at a time like this. "How dare you? You dare to question my words?" Tian Ziming coldly rebuked. Xian Jingtang gritted his teeth and said, "Sir, we are just ordinary cultivators. If Fire Yuman really came for my wife as you said, then it should have come long ago. Why wait until now?" How would I know what Fire Yuman is thinking? However, I am now the city lord of Eastern Sand City. Everything has to be done for the greater good. No matter what, I have to be fully prepared. If Hui Yumeng wants to kill your wife, then for the sake of everyone in Eastern Sand City, you have to make a sacrifice and let Hui Yumeng kill you. Tian Ziming shouted. Let Hui Yuming kill you? Mu Yu's heart was filled with anger. Tian Ziming actually dared to say such words in order to protect himself? However, what Mu Yu didn't expect was that the cultivators who followed Tian Ziming actually agreed with Tian Ziming's words. One after another, they echoed Tian Ziming's words. That's right. We have to capture this woman. After 3 days, we have to hand her over as well. She escaped a calamity last time. If we hand her over to Hui Yuming to deal with, I'm sure Hui Yuming will vent his anger after killing her. At that time, our chances of survival will be greater. That's right. We should hand this woman over. For the sake of our Eastern Sand City's survival, we have to make a sacrifice. That's right. If Hui Yuman sees us handing over a cultivator who hasn't been burned to death by the heavenly fire, he will definitely be very satisfied. That way, our chances of survival will be greater. Capture her. The cultivators began to speak eloquently against Madame Xian. At this moment of life and death, they didn't think about how to wage war against Yuman. Instead, they thought about how to curry favor with Hui Yuming outside. How to make Hui Yuming vent his anger and let the humans of Eastern Sand City go. How can you all? No one is allowed to capture my wife. Xian Jingtang frantically shielded Madame Xian behind him. He had never imagined that these people would be so cowardly. They all thought that sending an innocent victim to Hui Yuming would give them a chance of survival. You are not allowed to touch my mother. Xian Sitong shouted and also shielded Madame Xian behind her. Qi Shan also frantically surrounded Madame Xian with Xian Zhengtang and Xian Sitong, facing the aggressive cultivators. Madame Xian's face was pale. She also didn't think that she would become the target of public criticism. These cultivators who were assisting in the search all wanted to capture her. Mu Yu clenched his fist. His heart surged with a monstrous killing intent. People like Tian Ziming deserved to die. However, he tried his best to conceal his killing intent. He didn't want to kill in front of so many people. Once Tian Ziming died in the Mystic Beast workshop, all the cultivators in Eastern Sand City would point their spears at the Mystic Beast workshop. Mu Yu couldn't implicate the people here. Mu Yu coldly said, Yuman will only feel relieved after killing a human. I believe that it's not just Madame Xian. If any of you cultivators were to be sent to Yuman, Yuman would kill you to vent his anger. Since you keep on saying that you will sacrifice yourself for the lives of all the people in Eastern Sand City, then why don't you take the initiative to stand out and send 8 or 10 of you to Yuman to die? Mu Yu's words caused everyone present to quiet down. Everyone looked at Mu Yu in bewilderment. Right now, everyone wanted to compromise with Yuman because they were greedy for life and afraid of death. They wanted to send Madame Xian out to be killed by Fire Yuman to vent his anger. How could they be willing to take the initiative to stand out? Who are you? You dare to mislead people with your lies? Are you courting death? Tian Ziming stared at Mu Yu in an overbearing manner. I'm just a worker in the Mystic Beast workshop. Mu Yu looked at Tian Ziming with a cold expression. A cold glint flashed through his eyes and was reflected in Tian Ziming's eyes. Suddenly, Tian Ziming's heart inexplicably trembled. Tian Ziming thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. He fiercely squinted his eyes and shouted, "A little worker dares to spout nonsense here. I think I should also capture you and send you to Fire Yuman to be executed." Killing intent soared in Mu Yu's heart. The killing intent was about to spread out. An idiot like Tian Ziming didn't deserve to live. Not now. Little Shuai grabbed Mu Yu's hand in time and tried his best to suppress the killing intent in Mu Yu's body. If he killed in front of so many people, he would have to face all the cultivators. If he couldn't control it, he would most likely continue to kill until he killed everyone. Moreover, he would put everyone in the Mystic Beast workshop in danger. I'll go kill him tonight. You don't have to do anything. Little Shuai's words resounded in Mu Yu's heart. At this moment, a bald old man suddenly walked out from the crowd. He walked to Tian Ziming's side and said respectfully, "My lord, please calm down. My lord, we still have to hurry to find that person. How about you leave this matter to this lowly one?" "Who are you?" Tian Ziming looked at the bald old man and asked. The bald old man bowed humbly and smiled apologetically. "My lord, this lowly one is the great elder of the Burning Sea sect, Gao Yixing. These two are members of my Burning Sea sect. My lord, don't worry, I will give them some thought. My lord, it's more important for you to go and capture the criminals. In any case, Eastern Sand City has been sealed off, so they can't escape." Tian Ziming sized up the bald old man and nodded. "I remember you. You are the one who gave me advice yesterday. Very good. Since they are your people, don't disappoint me." "Yes, yes, yes. My lord still remembers this lowly one. This lowly one is really flattered. My lord, don't worry. This lowly one will definitely not disappoint you." The bald old man almost bowed to the ground. Tian Ziming snorted and then left with the other cultivators. After Tian Ziming left, the bald old man straightened his back. He turned around and lightly snorted. "Old Three, your performance today wasn't too good. Great Elder, when did you come here?" When Xian Jingtang saw the bald old man, his face revealed a shocked expression. The bald old man's appearance greatly surprised him. Chapter 828. OL3, if I hadn't come today, I'm afraid that things wouldn't have been able to stop, right? The bald old man had an aloof look, which was completely different from the image of him bowing and scraping in front of Tian Ziming. Xian Jingtang clenched his teeth and said, "Thank you, Great Elder, for helping us out." Although Xian Jingtang didn't like this Great Elder, it was undeniable that if it wasn't for the Great Elder's presence, Tian Ziming wouldn't have let it go so easily. The Great Elder's name was Gao Yixing. He had a pointy mouth and monkey cheeks. He had a few strands of sparse beard on his chin, triangular eyes, and no eyebrows. He looked very unharmonious. Xian Sitong frowned and asked solemnly, "Great Elder, what did you mean when you said that you wanted to help us think? Don't tell me you want to hand my mother over as well?" Xian Sitong understood the bald man in front of her. As the Burning Sea sect's Great Elder, he kept pocketing money and even forced the Profound Beast Workshop to hand over half of their income. If the Great Elder was so kind as to help them out, it wouldn't make sense at all. Gao Yixing smiled faintly and said with his chest puffed out, "Sitong, what are you saying? If I hadn't said that just now, how could the city lord let you guys off?" Mu Yu looked at Gao Yixing. Gao Yixing's bowing and scraping appearance in front of Tian Ziming made him feel disgusted. Even now, there was still a trace of an aloof fake smile on his face. According to Xian Sitong's description of Gao Yixing, this Great Elder wasn't a good person. Great Elder, Eastern Sand City was already trapped yesterday. This means that you came to Eastern Sand City long before Yamon's attack. Why did you only come to the Profound Beast Workshop now? Xian Jingtang asked in a deep voice. Gao Yixing twirled a few strands of his sparse beard and said, "Actually, I just arrived yesterday. Not long after I entered Eastern Sand City, I encountered the Yu Meng demon clan. Together with everyone else, I joined the battle against Yu Meng. As for last night, I naturally went to find out what happened next." "I'm afraid you went to curry favor with Tian Ziming, right?" Mu Yu mocked from the side. Everyone clearly heard what Tian Ziming said just now. Perhaps the plan to capture that mysterious person and seize He Jinglong's city lord position was Gao Yixing's idea. This guy really wasn't someone easy to deal with. After coming to Eastern Sand City, he didn't think of going to the Profound Beast Workshop, but directly currying favor with Tian Ziming. Gao Yixing fiercely glared at Mu Yu and angrily rebuked, "We're talking, why are you interrupting? Xian Jingtang, can the business of the Mystic Beast Workshop be good if you find such an impolite worker? With people like you, The Mystic Beast Workshop won't be doing well. Little Shuai snorted from the side. Where did this brat come from? Do you want to die? Gao Yixing's face darkened. Xian Jingtang suppressed the anger in his heart. He was also annoyed by this uninvited guest, Great Elder, and said, Great Elder, these two are honored guests of the Mystic Beast Workshop, not workers. Don't misunderstand. Gao Yixing glanced at Mu Yu and Little Shuai with contempt and said, I don't care if he's a worker or an honored guest. In short, you've seen what happened today. Everyone wants to capture Yan Hanyu and hand him over to Yuman to deal with. Fortunately, the current city lord believes in my words, so only I can save Yan Hanyu. He deliberately emphasized the words, the current city lord, as if being able to obtain the title of the current city lord was a great thing. The old city lord clenched his fist from the side. That's really awe-inspiring. I hope that by currying favor with the current city lord, Yuman will spare your life when he breaks into the city. Mu Yu sneered. Are you courting death? Gao Yixing was furious. You can try. Mu Yu was filled with killing intent. Xian Jingtang saw that the situation wasn't right and quickly said, Great Elder, you must be tired from the journey. Sit down first. Xian Jingtang now knew of Mu Yu's identity. Although the Great Elder looked very annoying, he was still a member of their Burning Sea sect. If he was killed by Mu Yu with a slap, it would be bad. Gao Yixing slowly walked to the stone chair in the courtyard and sat down. Seeing that the tea on the table was already empty, he said unhappily, You don't even have tea for guests here? Qi Shan, go quickly. Xian Jingtang gestured, and Qi Shan quickly ran to the kitchen. After a while, he came back with a pot of water and showed Gao Yixing the tea. Gao Yixing drank a mouthful of tea, then spat it out and scolded, Qi Shan, what kind of tea are you brewing? The water isn't even boiling? Qi Shan said with a face full of grievance, Great Elder, the water in the kitchen has always been boiling. You also know that we sometimes need scalding hot water to deal with demon beasts' fur, so the hot water has never been interrupted. Bastard! Using the hot water used to deal with demon beasts to make tea for me, do you still see me as the Great Elder? Gao Yixing angrily scolded. Qi Shan, go boil another pot. Xian Jingtang waved his hand. Qi Shan held back his anger. The Great Elder had always liked to put on airs when he was in the sect. He also liked to scold other disciples. Whenever a disciple didn't do a good job, he would scold him. The boiling water in the kitchen was originally clean. When dealing with demon beasts, he only needed to bring the boiled water to the workshop. There was no difference at all. But since the Great Elder was nitpicking, he couldn't do anything about it. Great Elder, since you know Lord Tianziming, then please say some good words in front of Lord Tianziming, is that okay? Xian Jingtang said. Gao Yixing's face deliberately showed a trace of embarrassment and said, Third brother, now that the enemy is in front of us, you should also know that everyone attaches great importance to anything related to Yu Meng. The current city lord is Tianziming. Although he can listen to my words, you can't make it difficult for me. Otherwise, wouldn't I betray his trust in me? Great Elder, Han Yu is a member of our Burning Sea sect. How can you just watch her die? Xian Jingtang's heart was burning with anger. Gao Yixing pondered for a moment and slowly said, It's not that I don't want to save her, but you have to understand some things. In the cultivation world, you have to understand the ways of the world. Lord Tianziming is not an unreasonable person, but if you want my help, at least let me arrange it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Great Elder, what are you trying to say? Xian Jingtang was an upright person. For a moment, he didn't understand what Gao Yixing was talking about. Mu Yu disdainfully said, You mean to use spirit stones to bribe Tianziming? Gao Yixing looked at Mu Yu with appreciation and continued to say to Xian Jingtang, Third brother, you see, your brain is not as bright as the young people. How can you accomplish great things like this? Xian Jingtang clenched his teeth and asked, Great Elder, how much do you think is appropriate? Gao Yixing reached out and played with the teacup, and said earnestly, Tian Ziming is a great figure of the form synthesis stage. With his identity, how can he put too few spirit stones in his eyes? At least 100,000 or 1,000,000. Xian Jingtang said in a deep voice, But Great Elder, I've only just managed to gather 5,000,000 spirit stones. I'm going to buy the Taisher Purple Heaven pill for Hanyu's treatment. How can I take out an extra 1,000,000? Gao Yixing's expression froze, and a greedy look flashed in his eyes. He asked, You haven't spent the 5,000,000 yet, right? I haven't had time to spend it. 100 Herb Hall doesn't have the Taisher Purple Heaven pill. Xian Jingtang sighed. Gao Yixing coughed twice, restraining the greed in his eyes, and said earnestly, Third brother, the Yumeng Devil clan is eyeing us covetously outside, and everyone is anxious to send Han Yu out to curry favor with the Yumeng Devil clan. What you should be thinking about now is how to save Han Yu's life. If you're still unwilling to part with the 5,000,000, it'll be too late for you to regret it when Han Yu is captured by them. Qi Shan once again brought tea. Gao Yixing slowly poured himself a cup of tea and continued, How about this, you give me the 5,000,000 and I'll take care of it. Maybe Tian Ziming will be happy and let Han Yu go. Don't you think so? Xian Jingtang was stunned and said, But that's the 5,000,000 I've painstakingly saved up. It's to treat Han Yu's illness. If I take it out, when will I be able to save up another 5,000,000? Third brother, you're in the wrong. Money can be earned again, but if you're gone, you'll lose everything. You can earn 5,000,000 spirit stones in just 2 months. Are you worried that you won't be able to earn it in the remaining 2 months? You have to think carefully about which is more important. Gao Yixing sighed bitterly. Mu Yu said sarcastically, What's wrong? The enemy is right in front of us. If the city lord doesn't take care of us, does he still have time to accept bribes? So, money could buy a life from the Yumeng Devil clan? Then why don't you just gather all the spirit stones in the entire Eastern Sand City and bribe Yuman? Maybe Yuman will be happy and withdraw his troop. Gao Yixing was choked by Mu Yu and was very dissatisfied. He reprimanded, You're not a member of our Mystic Beast workshop. Why do we need you to interrupt us? Gao Yixing turned his head and said to Xian Jingtang, Third brother, I'm only willing to help you because we're from the same sect. If you don't appreciate it, don't blame me if something happens. Mu Yu's gaze turned cold. Let me think. If Uncle Xian gave you 5,000,000 spirit stones, I think it would enter your pocket in the blink of an eye, right? How could a villain like you care about favors? If you cared about favors, you wouldn't have been squeezing Uncle Xian dry, right? Bastard! What right do you have to speak here? Gao Yixing, whose lie was exposed, flew into a rage out of humiliation. He slammed the table and stood up. However, Mu Yu said coldly, A villain like you doesn't deserve to live in this world. The pressure of a body fusion stage instantly enveloped Gao Yixing. A killing intent was faintly discernible. Mu Yu's shadow clone sword was already about to attack. Gao Yixing turned pale with fright. He didn't expect that Mu Yu, who looked like he was only at the out-of-body stage, was actually a hidden body fusion stage expert. At this moment, he was locked on by that faintly discernible killing intent and was immediately scared out of his wits. Wait, young master, have mercy. Xian Jingtang hurriedly stood in front of Gao Yixing and said earnestly, Young master, don't kill him. If a person like him doesn't die, you'll be squeezed by him for the rest of your life. Mu Yu's sword stopped in midair. Xian Jingtang smiled bitterly. I know, but Great Elder is still a member of our Burning Sea sect. If he dies in my Mystic Beast workshop, I won't be able to escape the blame. A person like him doesn't deserve to die. There's no need to pity him. Mu Yu's murderous gaze fell on Gao Yixing. Gao Yixing was so scared that his face turned ashen. He was so scared that his pants were wet. Old 3, save me. Gao Yixing sat paralyzed on the ground and pulled on Xian Jingtang's clothes in horror. Originally, he just wanted to extort Xian Jingtang, but he didn't expect that Xian Jingtang had a hidden expert. Young master, Yuman is still eyeing covetously outside. Gao Yixing is also a spirit-severing stage cultivator. If he dies, we'll have one less power to maintain the city defense array. Xian Jingtang said earnestly. Mu Yu slowly withdrew his sword, glanced at Xian Jingtang, and then shouted at Gao Yixing, "Get out. The next time I see you, I'll definitely kill you." Yes, yes, yes. Sir, please spare my life. This lowly one has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive me for offending you. Gao Yixing knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. His panicked appearance was completely different from his previous majestic and arrogant image. Scram! Mu Yu waved his hand and Gao Yixing felt as if he was swept by a huge force. Then, he was thrown out like a sandbag and smashed into the street, smashing the stones on the street. Gao Yixing got up from the ground with a grimace. Several of his ribs were broken. His eyes flashed with resentment as he angrily glanced at the profound beast workshop. Just you wait. Gao Yixing spat and then disappeared on the street. Little handsome, let's go out. Mu Yu looked at Gao Yixing's disappearing figure and called out to Little Handsome. Young master, where are you going? Xian Jingtang hurriedly asked. I'm going out to see the situation. Protect the old city lord first. Don't casually leave the profound beast workshop. Mu Yu brought Little Handsome and walked towards the entrance of the profound beast workshop. Just now, he didn't kill Gao Yixing on the spot because of Xian Jingtang, but that didn't mean that Gao Yixing could live. If he didn't get rid of this kind of person, there would be endless trouble in the future. Xian Jingtang wouldn't have it easy either. That's right, let's just kill Tian Ziming directly, Little Handsome said. Mu Yu nodded indifferently. Don't let off a single person who deserves to die. They didn't kill people in the Profound Beast Workshop just to avoid the Profound Beast Workshop being targeted by all the cultivators in the city. But they didn't have to worry about killing people outside. People like Tian Ziming deserved to die. Mu Yu and Little Handsome left the Profound Beast Workshop. Looking at Gao Yixing's back, they quickly followed. But at this moment, that strange feeling emerged in Mu Yu's heart again. He suddenly looked towards the empty alley, but he still didn't see anything strange. Is it still an illusion? Mu Yu was very doubtful. Did you sense that someone was spying on you again? Little Handsome asked. Mu Yu wasn't sure. His senses were very sharp, but the person in the dark seemed to be even more powerful and didn't let him catch a trace. Behind you. A hoarse voice suddenly came from behind Mu Yu. Mu Yu was shocked. Chapter 829. This was a young man dressed in gray. He was about the same height as Mu Yu. His aura was calm and reserved, like a dormant volcano waiting to erupt. Especially his eyes, which faintly emitted a red light. At some point, one could even see a flame flashing. Luo Shang. Mu Yu was extremely surprised. The young man in front of him was his second senior brother, Luo Shang, who had the ability to control flames. Luo Shang faintly nodded without any superfluous expression. His expression was cold and aloof. Why are you here? Mu Yu's heart was surging with emotions. After wandering around the cultivation world, he was quite touched to see Luo Shang suddenly. Ever since they parted ways in Clearwater City, the four of them went their separate ways for their own beliefs and never met each other again. It had been almost 2 years. It's not convenient to talk here, follow me, Luo Shang said. Mu Yu thought of something and said, Wait, I need your help with something. What is it? Luo Shang asked. I know someone who was burned by Heaven Rank Huiyuming's heavenly fire. Can you remove it? Mu Yu glanced at Gao Yixing, who disappeared into the crowd and retracted his killing intent. He planned to remove Madame Xian's heavenly fire first. Luo Shang nodded in silence. Then Mu Yu brought Luo Shang back to the Xian Beast workshop. Xian Jingtang saw Mu Yu come back with a gray-clothed young man. While he was puzzled, Mu Yu said, "Uncle, where's Madame Xian? She's resting inside. What's wrong? Go and call her out." "No need." Luo Shang lightly snapped his fingers. Then, Xian Xidong's exclamation suddenly came from the room. Then, a flame suddenly jumped out of the room and circled in the air before disappearing. Father, father, come and take a look." The heavenly fire on Mother's body disappeared. "Oh my God!" Xian Xidong's surprised voice came from the room. Xian Jingtang was extremely shocked as he hurriedly ran into the room. Mu Yu raised his eyebrows. "You directly used your ability to control fire in front of them? You trust them, so I don't need to doubt them," Luo Shang said simply. Mu Yu gave a faint smile. He knew that Xian Jingtang would not speak about this matter. "Come with me," Luo Shang said. "I want to kill Tian Ziming and Gao Yixing." Mu Yu said. "They will die without a doubt." "There is no need to do this," Luo Shang said. Mu Yu was silent for a moment. He glanced at Xian Jingtang's family who were crying tears of joy in the room, then nodded. He carried little Shuai and Luo Shang and disappeared from the Mystic Beast workshop. Luo Shang pushed open the door of an abandoned house in a remote corner of eastern Sand City, and walked in. A musty smell assailed his nostrils. It looked like no one had lived here for decades. The house was full of cobwebs and dust. There were also messy footprints on the ground. It seemed that many people had been here. It should be the group of people who were searching. "You live here?" Mu Yu asked in surprise. Luo Shang casually took 2 steps forward. A flame swept out from Luo Shang's body and enveloped the entire house. Then, the flame gradually dissipated, and the entire room looked brand new. It became a clean and tidy room. The floor was spotless and there was ample light. It was a sharp contrast to the room from before. "This is the 5 elements formation?" Mu Yu looked at the dissipating flame and nodded thoughtfully. The Yuming Devil clan's array formation was completely different from the human clan's array formation. The Yuming Devil clan's array formation relied on the 5 elements, while the human clan's array formation relied on spiritual power. Mu Yu didn't know how to use the array formation. Master didn't let us learn the human formation, but he didn't say that we can't learn the 5 elements formation. Luo Shang's gray clothes had turned fiery red. His clothes were as bright and dazzling as burning flames. It was difficult not to attract attention when he walked out. Mu Yu felt that there was something extra on Luo Shang's body. It felt familiar yet unfamiliar. Then, Mu Yu understood what it was. It was because he had it on his body too. "You've obtained the power to kill." Little Shuai jumped onto the table and looked at Luo Shang curiously. "Who is this child?" Luo Shang asked. "Little Shuai, you've seen Master's sword spirit before." Mu Yu also sat down. When he suddenly saw Luo Shang, he felt very emotional. In the past, because of Lan Ling Mu Yu did not like his second senior brother. However, Luo Shang did not like Mu Yu either. It was only because of his identity as the second senior brother that Luo Shang helped Mu Yu many times. "Why are you here?" Mu Yu asked. He knew that everyone must have experienced a lot in the past 2 years. Mu Yu had obtained the power to kill through a special method, and Luo Shang must have had his own past. "You shouldn't have revealed your power to kill yesterday." Luo Shang did not answer Mu Yu directly. Mu Yu pursed his lips and said indifferently, "At that time, I wanted to protect this city." "Is that so? Then what did you get in return?" Luo Shang's tone was very cold. Mu Yu frowned. "Back in Clearwater City, it was you and eldest senior brother who chose to protect the human race. I'm tired of it." Luo Shang's eyes flashed with fatigue and disappointment. Mu Yu was silent. He knew what Luo Shang was thinking. Many times he also questioned himself. Was protecting the human race really that important? He silently helped the human race, but in the end, what did those cultivators give him? All the cultivators in Eastern Sand City had to compromise with Yuman to suppress Muyu, who had helped them. After a long time, Muyu slowly said, "Me too." He was tired of the human race's deception, tired of the cultivators' cowardice, tired of the human race's hypocrisy. He did not understand why he had to continue helping the human race. His master had sacrificed himself to protect the human race, and Mu Yu respected his master's wishes. He had always believed that his master had his reasons for doing so. However, the third palace had also attacked Jian, Ying and Qinfeng. Now, he had used his power to help stabilize the city's defensive array, but he had also become the target of the cultivators' crusade. But I promised someone to protect this city. I have to deal with the trouble I caused myself. Mu Yu shook his head. The old city lord said that he could not make the decision for Mu Yu because he had become the person in charge. He understood how it felt to be forced to die. At this time, asking Mu Yu to help the entire city was undoubtedly asking for too much. Therefore, the old city lord did not dare to tell Mu Yu that he had to take responsibility for the entire city. Mu Yu knew that even though the old city lord was being suppressed by the cultivators in the city, he still wanted to save the people of the city. Since Mu Yu had let the old city lord make the decision, he would save them. Did you promise He Jinglong? He is indeed an admirable person. Luo Shang's eyes revealed a rare trace of admiration, but it was fleeting. He then continued, "But saving a bunch of ungrateful people will not give you anything. They will never be grateful to you. I don't need them to be grateful to me. I just want to do the right thing," Mu Yu said calmly. The aura of slaughter was constantly affecting him. He could no longer determine what was right. He let the old city lord make the decision for him, so he would do as the old city lord said. He had to know where his bottom line was when he had the power of slaughter. Luo Shang knew that Mu Yu was talking about. He then pointed at the teapot and asked, "Do you want to drink tea? You like to drink tea?" Mu Yu never knew that Luo Shang, who could control flames, liked to drink tea. Then he remembered that he did not seem to know much about Luo Shang. Mu Yu shook the teapot and found that it was cold. "Master likes to drink tea. When we were at Falling Dust Mountain, he said that I should learn to drink tea. Tea can calm people down and prevent them from losing themselves because of irritation. Therefore, I also like to drink tea." Luo Shang picked up the teapot and walked to the shabby well outside to fetch some water. When he came back, the tea was already boiling hot and slightly steaming. He poured a cup for Mu Yu and another for himself. The tea was steaming and had a green color. A fragrance assailed their nostrils. Luo Shang said, "Master said that drinking tea requires a calm mind." Mu Yu took a sip. The boiling hot tea entered his throat, but he only tasted a bitter taste. It was the same feeling he had when he was attacked by those cultivators. "I can't remember the sweetness of the tea." Mu Yu put down the teacup. Luo Shang picked up the teacup and gently shook it twice. He sniffed the tea fragrance and took a sip. His actions were very natural. However, Luo Shang also shook his head. "After leaving Falling Dust Mountain, I can no longer feel the tranquility of drinking tea with Master." The fragrance of the tea lingered, but it could not calm the two of them. "Master said that we have to protect the cultivators. I really don't see the point of protecting them," Luo Shang said. Mu Yu did the same. He did not want to do this. He would rather watch Eastern Sand City be destroyed by Yuman and make those ungrateful and selfish cowards pay the price. "But I have to protect these cultivators. Because I was the one who led them here, I have to take responsibility. I think Master would say the same thing to me." Mu Yu's heart was in a constant struggle. He tried hard to tell himself that this was the only right thing to do. There was a long silence. Xiao Shui was bored to death. He poured the water from the 2 teacups back and forth and poured it back into the teapot. Then, he covered the 2 teacups with each other and put the teapot on top of the teapot. He smiled very happily. He would not think so much about right and wrong. Luo Shang broke the silence. They are here for me. Mu Yu raised his head and looked at Luo Shang. He frowned and said, Are you saying that Yuman attacked Eastern Sand City this time to find you? Luo Shang nodded. Mu Yu had always thought that when he killed Yi Feiying, Yuman sensed Yuman's killing power. That was why Yuman suddenly attacked Eastern Sand City. I've been living here for a few months. I've been trying to find out about Yuman's situation. Priest Fire has been trying to capture me, but I've carefully hidden my killing power. Yesterday morning, I went deep into the mountains to scout for information and was discovered by Priest Fire. That's why he gathered Jin Yumeng and 2 Yumeng to come to Eastern Sand City to capture me, Luo Shang said calmly. Mu Yu was a little surprised. He did not understand why Yuman would suddenly attack Eastern Sand City. Now, he realized that it was all because of Luo Shang. So when I used my killing power yesterday, they mistook me for you? Mu Yu asked. Luo Shang nodded. Mu Yu felt as if a rock had been lifted from his heart. If that was the case, then he did not have to bear this responsibility. Even if 100,000 people in Eastern Sand City were slaughtered by Yuman, it would have nothing to do with him. Do you know what I found out yesterday morning? Luo Shang did not feel guilty. His expression was still very cold. What? They plan to use the 5 elements apocalypse to destroy Eastern Sand City in 5 days to collect their killing power. So even if they did not attack yesterday morning, they would have slaughtered Eastern Sand City in a few days? Luo Shang replied. Then why did they suddenly attack yesterday? Because I was discovered by them. They were worried that the news would leak and the cultivators in Eastern Sand City would be moved away. That would be a failure, so they immediately brought forward the plan. Luo Shang snorted softly. So that's why. Mu Yu was silent for a moment. Then he asked, Those 3 Yumeng giants are Yuman's priests? That's right. Priest Fire, Priest Earth, and Priest Gold. Why do they have killing power on their bodies? Mu Yu could not understand this. The 3 Yumeng giants from yesterday were filled with killing intent, as if they were gods of slaughter. There was no mistaking that aura. However, only the 5 Yumeng spirit lords possessed the killing power. None of the other Yumeng could control it. Why did it seem like the 3 of them had not become pure killing machines? They found the killing power in the previous Yumeng spirit lord and used special methods to use this power. After all, this power does not belong to them. So they need to constantly kill to maintain their killing power. The human race has already destroyed 3 cities. Eastern Sand City will be the 4th. Luo Shang was neither sad nor happy about this result. Why did they want to fuse with the killing power themselves? I thought they would come to find the 5 of us. Mu Yu didn't understand this matter. Find us and release Spirit Lord Yu Meng from our bodies. At that time, won't Yu Meng Demon Clan have a leader? Luo Shang shook his head. As far as I know, they haven't found any of the 5 of us yet. If they can't get Spirit Lord Yu Meng back, they will definitely be defeated by the humans led by the Threefold Palace. Therefore, they decided to strike first to gain the upper hand. Before the battle starts, they will stabilize the killing energy in the Oracle's bodies, just in case. Yumeng destroyed 3 cities, so why hasn't the Threefold Palace done anything? Little Commander asked. Mu Yu and Luo Shang both turned to look at Little Commander. Little Commander thought of something and stuck out his tongue. He waved his hand and said, "Oh, I forgot. Yuman massacred 3 cities and killed the people of those 3 cities. This meant that countless humans had died and turned into the purest soul power, which became the source of power for the Threefold Palace. Yuman obtained the killing power and could increase his strength so that he would not be easily defeated by the humans. The longer the battle lasted, the more soul power would be produced. This was something that the Threefold Palace wanted to see, So why would they do anything to stop it? Chapter 830. Luo Shang remained silent. A faint flame burned in his eyes. The flame was arrogant and cold, with a hint of hostility. Mu Yu didn't ask any more questions. The two of them just sat there, neither of them speaking. Only little Shuai sat on the table, chewing on an apple, his voice crisp and clear. Did you come looking for me today because of the cultivators of Dongsha City? Mu Yu broke the silence. Luo Shang shook his head. Their lives and deaths have nothing to do with me. His voice was very hoarse and calm, as if he was talking about something very simple. That's your responsibility, Mu Yu said. I told you, I'm tired of it. Luo Shang didn't hide anything. Mu Yu was tired of it too. They were both tired of the ugly nature of cultivators. Then what are you going to do next? I'm going to raise my cultivation, kill my way into the third palace, and save Master, Luo Shang said calmly. Mu Yu stared at Luo Shang. Can you watch as everyone in Dongsha City dies at Yu Meng's hands with a clear conscience? I can, Luo Shang replied. He didn't even hesitate when he said, I can. Mu Yu shook his head. So our roles have been reversed? Back in Clearwater City, Mu Yu had insisted on finding a way to dispel the Nine Heavens sealing formation. He hadn't considered the consequences of doing so. At the time, Qingyan and Luo Shang had wanted to stop him because they wanted to uphold their master's will and protect the world of cultivators with the lives of the cultivators. But now, Mu Yu still believed that protecting the cultivators of Dongsha City was a responsible choice. Luo Shang, on the other hand, didn't want to get involved in this matter. They're not worth my protection, Luo Shang said. Mu Yu clenched his fists, then relaxed them. Even now, the self-cultivators outside were still searching for his whereabouts. They wanted to hand him over to the Yumeng Devil clan. What was the point of protecting such a self-cultivator? I also have the power of slaughter in my body. I know what it means. You don't have to force yourself, Luo Shang continued. Mu Yu's originally calm heart was stirred by Luo Shang's words. He knew that Luo Shang's words were correct. After continuously using the power of slaughter, that power had long since quietly changed Mu Yu's personality. Now, Mu Yu's temperament had become very calm. Life was insignificant to him, but he still maintained his sense of right and wrong, and maintained his most primitive rationality. He tried his best to convince himself that Yu Meng had made a mistake by massacring the cultivators of East Sand City. He believed that people like Xian Zhengtang and the old city lord deserved to live. Then what is your purpose in bringing me here? Mu Yu asked. The Five Elements Apocalypse is an extremely powerful Five Elements array formation. The city-protecting array will not be able to defend against it. That is why I want to bring you out of East Sand City, Luo Shang said. You know how to leave this place? Mu Yu looked surprised. Luo Shang nodded. Raging flames swept out of his hand again, circling around the center of the room. Then, 5 array bases appeared in the center of the room. 10,000-year green wood, black sea chin ice, ancient spirit fire, outer meteoric iron, and frozen rock. These 5 items that belonged to Yu Meng formed a teleportation array. I will leave a way out for myself, Luo Shang said. This teleportation array can only teleport Yu Meng. Mu Yu frowned. When Mu Yu and Tian Ran had gone through Yu Meng's teleportation array together, he had been fine. However, Tian Ran had almost been killed by the teleportation array's powerful power. Mu Ling had protected Tian Ran in time. That time, he had also squeezed Little Handsome out of his eggshell. I only wanted to bring you with me. Luo Shang did not hide anything. But I can't let all the cultivators of East Sand City die. Mu Yu shook his head. He had promised the old city lord. Luo Shang said, This is my responsibility. I don't want to be responsible. You don't have to be responsible either. Besides, Luo Shang looked into Mu Yu's eyes and continued, "You can't save them." "Not necessarily. Teach me the 5 elements array formation." "I can modify it," Mu Yu said seriously. He could repair the city protecting array and make it have a powerful counterattack ability. If it could not block it, he could use the 5 elements teleportation array to leave this place. Back then, his master had not allowed them to learn the array formations of the human race because he was worried that if they demonized, they would understand how to break the protective array formations of the human race and cause the human race to be unable to resist Yu Meng. However, Mu Yu had gone against his master's wishes in the end. Now, his array formation skills were already outstanding in the cultivation world. If he could learn Yu Meng's 5 elements array formation, he would be able to make up for his shortcomings. Back then, he could use Mu Ling to protect Tianran. Then, as long as he understood the rules of the 5 elements teleportation array and amplified the effects of Mu Ling, he could teleport all the cultivators out. The teleportation array required 2 teleportation points. Since Luo Shang had already prepared the teleportation array, it meant that he had set up another teleportation point outside East Sand City. "I can teach you, but do you really think those cultivators are worth saving?" Luo Shang asked. Mu Yu thought for a long time and said slowly, "At least I know one thing. If everyone in the city dies, then the soul power produced will be enormous. This is not the result you and I want to see." "Even if they are attacking you?" "The old city lord wants to save them." Luo Shang pondered for a long time and nodded, "I understand." In the profound beast workshop, Xian Jingtang and his family were still hugging and crying. They were overjoyed that the heaven fire on Madame Xian's hand had disappeared. For the past few months, the heaven fire had been burning on Madame Xian's hand, tormenting her day and night. In order to gather the 5 million required to buy the Taisher Purple Heaven Pill, Xian Jingtang had been working hard to hunt demon beasts. He was also fortunate enough to receive Mu Yu's help. However, Yaman's sudden attack caused them to fall into despair once again. When they thought that they were doomed this time, they never thought that Mu Yu would bring back a young man who directly resolved the heaven fire that couldn't be removed. Xian Sitong excitedly hugged her mother and asked, "Father, do you know how the heaven fire on Mother's hand disappeared?" Xian Jingtang knew that this matter was definitely related to the young man that Mu Yu brought back. That young man could deal with the heaven fire with just a snap of his fingers. This ability was similar to Heaven Stage Yu Meng. He instantly thought of many things, including the rumors of the 5 people in the cultivation world. Xian Jingtang shook his head in the face of his daughter's question and smiled. "I don't know. Maybe the heavens took pity on me." He knew what to say and what not to say. To be able to free his wife from her pain was already a great favor. However, at this moment, all kinds of noises came from outside the door. Xian Jingtang felt that something was wrong and quickly walked out. However, he discovered that Tian Ziming and the rest had returned. "Sirs, what happened?" Xian Jingtang began to feel uneasy. Soon, he saw Gao Yixing beside Tian Ziming. Gao Yixing's eyes flickered with resentment as he fiercely glared at Xian Jingtang. Tian Ziming coldly snorted, "Xian Jingtang, Gao Yixing said that you are harboring criminals. The mysterious person from yesterday was the young man from your profound beast workshop. Where is he now?" Xian Jingtang was shocked and quickly said, "Sirs, that person is only a guest of my profound beast workshop. He isn't the mysterious person from yesterday." "Nonsense. Xian Jingtang, I took good care of you in vain. I didn't expect that you would repay kindness with enmity and harbor a criminal. If you know what's good for you, quickly hand over that brat. The city lord has something to ask him." Gao Yixing gnashed his teeth and shouted. Just now, he was frightened by Mu Yu's threat to the point that he lost control of his bladder. Now, the stench on his body couldn't be dispersed. Needless to say, He was so angry in his heart that he immediately ran to Tian Ziming to complain. Great Elder, don't talk nonsense. That person is so young. How could he be the mysterious person from yesterday? You're thinking too much, Xian Jingtang said solemnly. Thinking too much? You're not thinking too much. Hand over that person and the city lord will decide everything. Gao Yixing coldly snorted. Xian Jingtang panicked and said, That young master has already left. He's not here. Left? Search for me. Under Tian Ziming's command, all the cultivators aggressively rushed into every room and began to search. Soon, Xian Sitong and her father, as well as Xian Qishan, were pushed out. City Lord, that brat is not here. The cultivators searching loudly reported. Tian Ziming coldly walked in front of Xian Zhengtang and questioned, Speak, where is that person? I don't know. That young master has always been elusive. I don't know his whereabouts. Facing Tian Ziming's pressure, Xian Zhengtang's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. His legs were almost unsteady. You don't know? The lives of all the people in the city are in your hands. You dare to lie to me? Tian Ziming grabbed Madame Xian, who had just gotten rid of the heavenly fire. If you don't speak, not only will I capture your wife and give her to Yu Meng, your whole family won't be able to escape. Gao Yixing's eyes were sharp. He suddenly exclaimed, My lord, quickly look. The heavenly fire in this woman's hand has actually disappeared. Only now did Tian Ziming notice Madame Xian's situation. He coldly asked, 2 hours ago, you were still troubled by the heavenly fire. Why did it suddenly disappear? Madame Xian somewhat panicked and said, I don't know. The heavenly fire suddenly disappeared. Gao Yixing stood out and said flatteringly, City Lord, the aura on that brat's body was very strange. It was exactly the same as the aura on Giant Yu Meng's body yesterday. Now that the heavenly fire in this woman's hand has disappeared, if I'm not wrong, it must have been that brat who removed it, allowing this woman to escape. However, I don't think we can let this woman go so easily. Great Elder, she is your junior sister, Xian Jingtang said angrily. Gao Yixing sneered, I'm on the side of reason, not family. Let alone my junior sister, even if it was my wife, as long as it could save the entire city, I would be willing to let her stand out. Chapter 831. I didn't expect Elder Gao of the Burning Sea sect to be such a righteous person. Yeah. Elder Gao is willing to place righteousness above family. I really admire him. If we can escape from Yuman's hands this time, Elder Gao's contribution can't go unnoticed. Yeah. Elder Gao is a role model for our generation. Gao Yixing's ugly attitude of putting righteousness before family was praised by the other cultivators. At the same time, they felt even more hatred towards Xian Jingtang's family from the Profound Beast Workshop. They poured their hatred towards the Yumeng Devil clan onto them. Gao Yixing enjoyed listening to everyone's praise and then continued, as everyone knows, once one is infected by the heavenly fire, one can only rely on the Taisher Purple Heaven Pill to remove it. But they didn't use the Taisher Purple Heaven Pill to remove the heavenly fire. There's only one possibility, that kid must be in cahoots with Yuman. That's right, the Burning Sea sect's great elder is right. I didn't expect that we would be deceived by him just now. Damn it. It's all because the shopkeeper of the Profound Beast Workshop is harboring a criminal. He deserves to die. Fortunately, the Burning Sea sect's great elder placed righteousness above family. Otherwise, we would still be in the dark. The cultivators began to be agitated and indignant. They poured all their anger onto Xian Jingtang's family and began to curse loudly. Kill their entire family. That's right, this kind of selfish person who disregarded our lives deserves to die. The cultivators said all kinds of ruthless words. Xian Jingtang's family had already angered everyone. The old city lord was already burning with anger. When he was about to stand up, Xian Jingtang pulled the old city lord and shook his head. Don't worry about this matter. Otherwise, you will also be implicated. Xian Jingtang didn't want to implicate the old city lord. At this time, if the old city lord's identity was exposed, then it would undoubtedly make things worse. The old city lord would definitely be caught and killed by the furious cultivators. Capture them, I don't believe it. Find out the whereabouts of that guy. He Jinglong is definitely with him. Tian Ziming shouted. A few spirit-severing stage cultivators had already taken action and captured Xian Sitong and her mother. Let me go. Don't touch my mother. Xian Sitong shouted. Sitong. Madame Xian had just been freed from the torment of the heavenly fire and had yet to fully recover. She was no match for these people. Gao Yixing and another spirit-severing stage cultivator restrained the struggling Xian Jingtang. In front of so many people, Xian Jingtang's family couldn't escape at all. Gao Yixing pretended to inadvertently approach Xian Jingtang and whispered, "Old three, don't blame me. You asked for it." Gao Yixing, you're so ruthless. I even begged that young master not to kill you. Xian Jingtang roared in grief and indignation. Gao Yixing sneered and whispered, "Third brother, you are too straightforward. You still can't see the reality. In this world, you can't be a good person. Good people can't survive in the cultivation world." Xian Jingtang was extremely angry. He was so angry that his whole body trembled, but he had no reason to refute because Gao Yixing was right. It was too difficult for good people to live in this world. Xian Jingtang had always wanted to be a person who adhered to his own principles and kept his bottom line as a person. He was an upright person, just like his name. However, in the cultivation world where strength was everything, honest and upright people would always run into a wall everywhere. They would be exploited by any treacherous person. Looking at the furious cultivators around him, he laughed bitterly in his heart. What was the point of being a good person? Gao Yixing walked to Tian Ziming's side and said with a flattering face, "My lord, my third brother is very stubborn. In front of so many people, he definitely won't say anything. Why don't you give me some time alone with him so that I can pry the whereabouts of the mysterious person from his mouth?" "Well, I'll give you a quarter of an hour. If you can't find out the whereabouts of that person and he Jinglong, I'll deal with it according to the rules." Tian Ziming nodded. "Thank you, my lord." Gao Yixing smiled obsequiously. His face was scrunched up like a puddle of mud on his face that had been stepped on by someone. It was flat and disgusting, making people feel disgusted. Gao Yixing brought Xian Jingtang into a room alone. Seeing that there was no one around, he immediately stopped smiling and put on a pained expression. "Third brother, I've pleaded with the city lord time and time again. Don't waste my good intentions." Xian Jingtang clenched his fists. "First elder, I beg you, for the sake of our fellow sect members, let us go. Letting your family go is just a matter of me saying a word in front of the city lord. However, you also know that the person the city lord really wants to catch is not you, but that disrespectful brat just now. As long as you tell him the whereabouts of that brat, I guarantee that the city lord will let your family go. How about it?" Xian Jingtang thought back to how Mu Yu had helped them. He bitterly smiled and shook his head. "I don't know. Even if I knew, I wouldn't say it. That young master is a good person. He is the hope of our Dongsha city, and can lead us to victory against Yuman." Although Xian Jingtang understood that it was hard to be a good person in this world, he still didn't want to give up his principles. Living in this world was just to live up to his conscience. Gao Yixing's shifty eyes turned and he stroked his sparse beard. "So, you've already admitted that the brat is the person Yuman is looking for?" Xian Jingtang shook his head. "What you're doing is wrong. but his words were so weak. Gao Yixing laughed. Third brother, I'm the person who knows you the best. Just now, that young master saved that old thief He Jinglong and didn't care about the lives of everyone in the city. So you definitely know where He Jinglong is, right? Xian Jingtang thought of the old city lord who was still in the crowd outside. He panicked and shook his head. I don't know. He's already taken the old city lord to another place. Third brother, you really don't know what's good for you. Gao Yixing sneered. He opened the door and shouted, Bring that girl here. A bearded man roughly pulled Xian Sitong over. Xian Sitong's face was pale, but it was still filled with stubbornness. Glaring angrily at Gao Yixing, she fiercely spat at his face. Gao Yixing completely ignored Xian Sitong's angry gaze. He didn't care about anything and used his spirit energy to shake off the spit. He sneered. Xian Jingtang, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't tell me where He Jinglong and that brat are, I'll kill your daughter. Xian Jingtang said sadly, Great Elder, we're all on the same side. Why do you have to force us? Gao Yixing puffed out his chest and snorted. I'm now loyal to the Lord of Dongsha City. Naturally, I have to deal with this impartially. Disaster is upon us. Only by handing the person over to Yuman can we survive. Do you still not understand? Xian Jingtang looked at his daughter with red eyes. He shook his head and said, It's better not to live than to live against my conscience. I don't know where they are. You don't know? Gao Yixing grabbed Xian Sitong's neck. You really don't know? No, I beg you. Don't. Xian Jingtang saw that his daughter was captured and shouted anxiously. Xian Sitong's face flushed red. She looked at her father and said as if she was facing death. Father, you said that you want to be a righteous person. That's more important than life. Our lives were saved by him in the first place. Isn't that right? If it wasn't for Mu Yu that day, they would have been killed by the people of Xingxiang Manor in the forest. Sitong, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Xian Jingtang closed his eyes as tears flowed down his cheeks. Are you going to tell me or not? Where are He Jinglong and that person? Gao Yixing increased his strength. There was a long silence. Xian Jingtang's chest heaved up and down. The old city lord was in the courtyard. As long as he pointed out the old city lord's identity, perhaps Tian Ziming would be happy and his daughter would be saved. Their family wouldn't have to die and would even have a great merit. He could even suggest to Tian Ziming that they set a trap here and wait for that Mu Yu to return and capture him. That Mu Yu trusted him. This plan was absolutely foolproof. He was struggling in his heart. He thought of his wife, who had just escaped the torture of the heavenly fire. He thought of his daughter who was threatened by Gao Yixing. He thought of the walls he had run into all these years. He thought of the ostracism he had received everywhere. He had been a righteous person his whole life. What did he get in return? He only needed to say one word. That one word that Tian Ziming and Gao Yixing wanted to know. That one word that could save their entire family. But Xian Jingtang shook his head. I don't know where the old city lord and that person are. His face was as white as paper. He didn't know why he had to be a righteous person. But he stubbornly believed that there were some principles that he couldn't give up on. Those were principles that he had to follow even if he had to die. Father, we aren't ungrateful people. You are my pride. I will still be your daughter in my next life. Xian Sitong forced out a smile. But pain was written all over her face. She was almost out of breath. Gao Yixing's cultivation was much higher than hers. She couldn't use any spirit energy. Stop! The old city lord suddenly shouted. No! Xian Jingtang and Xian Sitong shouted at the same time. If the old city lord's identity was exposed, he wouldn't be able to live for more than a quarter of an hour. The old city lord looked at Xian Jingtang's family with determination and said, If you aren't afraid of death, then why should I be afraid of these people? No, you can't do this. Xian Jingtang shook his head. But the old city lord had already removed the illusion array that Mu Yu had placed on his face. The method to break the illusion array was so simple. It was as simple as the old city lord's determination to die. The person you are looking for is me. The old city lord revealed his true face. His turbid eyes suddenly shot out a strange brilliance, and his old body exuded an air of arrogance. Like a dazzling sun, he disdainfully scanned the group of cowards in the courtyard. Chapter 832. Yuman hovered in the sky above Dongsha City, eyeing every movement below. One by one, the Yumings burned brightly in the sky. However, the sudden surge of enthusiasm in Dongsha City overshadowed the flames on Yuman's body. Even the Yuman in the sky paled in comparison. The entire city was cheering. The entire city was restless. The entire city was on a crusade. They had captured the old city lord and Xian Jingtang's family. They believed that the mysterious person would appear. They believed that the new city lord, Tian Ziming, would lead them to capture the mysterious person. They believed that Yuman would let them go after capturing the mysterious person. They believed that they would survive. In a small, dilapidated courtyard, two people trapped by the power of slaughter sat silently in the room. They didn't seem to hear the commotion outside. Mu Yu was learning the 5 elements array technique. He wanted to combine the human race's array techniques with the 5 elements teleportation array. He wanted to create a Yumeng teleportation array that could be withstood by human bodies and send all the self-cultivators away. He stubbornly wanted to follow the old city lord's wishes and save the self-cultivators that he hated. Your knowledge of array techniques is beyond my imagination, Luo Shang said thoughtfully. I am the head of the array glyph sect. Mu Yu didn't hide anything. Every array technique had a certain pattern. Mu Yu's deduction ability was very strong. Luo Shang only explained it once, but he was already familiar with the entire 5 elements teleportation array's operating pattern. He also figured out how to add his own array techniques to the original foundation. But I still say the same thing. Many people aren't worth saving. Luo Shang sat in a chair and watched Mu Yu study how to modify the 5 elements teleportation array into one that could teleport self-cultivators. Although he was tired of protecting the human race, he didn't stop Mu Yu. I know. They aren't worth saving. Mu Yu was still guiding the array patterns in his hands. He was trying his best to integrate his array techniques into the 5 elements teleportation array. But the old city lord wants to save them. Mu Yu continued. The hustle and bustle of the city had already reached their ears, but they did not care. Since early morning, the hustle and bustle of the city had not stopped. They thought the same was true of the current clamor. Mu Yu stirred the 10,000-year-old greenwood and connected it with the ancient spirit flame. Now, he figured out why the teleporting formation of 5 elements could not teleport human beings. Do you plan to leave this place first? Mu Yu asked. I'll go with you, Luo Shang said indifferently. Even though he had the power to kill, even though his personality had changed, and even though he was tired of protecting the cultivators, Luo Shang still regarded Mu Yu as his junior brother. Since their master was not around, they had to take care of each other. Mu Yu nodded. Then you must help me relocate the residents of Eastern Sand City. Luo Shang snorted but did not reply. Mu Yu continued to modify the 5 elements teleportation array. Yumeng's 5 elements teleportation array could not teleport humans because the cultivators' physiques were too heterogeneous and did not meet the requirements for teleportation. The 5 elements teleportation array's requirements were either to have a physique of one of the 5 elements or to have a physique of perfect balance of the 5 elements, which was the immortal body. Mu Yu and Mu Yumeng were the same. They both had an extreme wood attribute physique. Therefore, when he passed through the teleportation array, He would not be pushed aside by the teleportation array. It was the same for Luo Shang and the others. However, from the fact that he could use Mu Ling to protect Tian Ran back then, it could be seen that Mu Ling could temporarily cover others with its wood attribute aura so that they would not be torn apart by the 5 elements teleportation array's power. In the past, the wood spirit had been severely damaged, so it hadn't been able to completely protect tranquility. Now that the wood spirit had fully recovered, Mu Yu believed that it would be able to protect many people as they left safely. He began to inscribe his own array patterns and connect them with the 5 elements teleportation array. This way, after expanding, it could teleport at least 100 people at once. There are more than 100,000 cultivators in Eastern Sand City. How are you going to teleport them all away? Luo Shang asked. I'll do my best. I only know that if Yu Meng massacred everyone in Eastern Sand City, that would mean that the soul power of 100,000 people would become the source of power for the 3-layered palace. Mu Yu replied without even raising his head. Mu Yu planned to connect the teleportation array to a spacious area in Eastern Sand City so that it could teleport more people at once. If you want to teleport so many people, you need an extremely powerful array base. Can your chaotic yin-yang array do that? Luo Shang asked. Mu Yu thought for a moment. After using the chaotic yin-yang array, I won't be able to leave if something unexpected happens. I need to borrow the power of Eastern Sand City's city defense array. Master's statue can be my array base. Mu Yu's idea was to set up the array base in the open space below the city gate tower. The array base would be connected to Luo Shang's teleportation array. This way, the cultivators would not need to squeeze into Luo Shang's dilapidated courtyard. They would only need to leave at the city gate. You saved the people of Eastern Sand City. They won't be grateful to you, Luo Shang said. I don't need them to be grateful. Mu Yu said indifferently, if they survive, they should be grateful to the old city lord. However, Mu Yu knew that this group of people would not be grateful to the old city lord. They would not be grateful to the person who had truly helped them. They would only believe in the so-called 8-gate, the so-called 3-layered palace. I'm done. I can use my array to protect the cultivators' bodies. This way, they won't be squeezed by Yu Meng's teleportation array. Mu Yu had finished modifying the array. Next, he would head to the city gate tower to set up the array. Do you want to come? Mu Yu stood up and engraved all the array techniques onto a piece of innate array base. As long as he activated this array base in front of the city gate, he would be able to transfer the array base's array techniques to the open space at the city gate. Then, he would be able to let that group of disgusting cultivators leave Eastern Sand City. Luo Shang followed behind without saying a word. His fiery red clothes had already been covered by the 5 elements array and turned gray. He looked rather inconspicuous in the crowd. The entire city was still bustling with noise, rising and falling one after another. The 2 figures quickly swept past the houses. Their speed was so fast that ordinary people would not be able to detect their existence. However, just as Mu Yu swept past a street, the words of a few cultivators suddenly floated into his ears. So pitiful! The profound beast workshop was destroyed just like that. Humph! How is this pitiful? They are harboring criminals. They deserve to die 10,000 times. That's right. That woman could still recover after being set on fire by the heavenly fire. She must have colluded with Hui Yu Meng. They deserve it. The deaths of those people from the profound beast workshop are not regrettable. All of our lives added together are much more important than theirs. Gao Yixing's action of placing righteousness before family is truly admirable. Let's quickly go to the city gate and take a look. A few cultivators were discussing spiritedly on the roof. These words caused Mu Yu's heart to thump. When he heard the words profound beast workshop and heavenly fire, as well as the words Gao Yixing, he suddenly felt uneasy. He was originally going to kill Gao Yixing, but he was delayed by Luo Shang's appearance. But why would this group of people say that Gao Yixing placed righteousness before family? Mu Yu's heart suddenly surged with a sense of irritation. Only now did he realize that the clamor of the entire city seemed to have gathered at the eastern city gate. There were already very few cultivators on the street. Many cultivators were rushing towards the eastern city gate. Mu Yu quickly passed by this group of cultivators. He swept through the air, leaving behind a mirage as he landed in the profound beast workshop. Old City Lord? Uncle Xian? Mu Yu landed in the courtyard and looked at the mess in the courtyard. The willow tree in the courtyard was also broken. The flowers and plants were scattered all over the ground. The living room had collapsed into a pile of ruins. Countless debris fluttered in the wind, as if it had suffered a serious attack. No one responded to him. Xian Jingtang and others were gone. What happened? Little Shuai also looked around in bewilderment, not knowing what was going on. Bang! Suddenly, 3 figures were heavily thrown to the ground. Just ask them, Wang Yao said. Luo Shang had already grabbed the 3 spirit-severing stage cultivators from the corner hidden in the ruins. Mu Yu stared coldly at the 3 cultivators and shouted coldly, "What happened here?" The killing intent in his eyes poured directly on the 3 people like a tide. The 3 spirit-severing stage cultivators were immediately scared to the ground. "Lord, please spare our lives. We were just ordered to wait here for you to appear, and then report to the city lord. We don't know anything." A spirit-severing stage cultivator with a mustache replied in a panic. When the 3 of them saw Mu Yu appear, they originally wanted to directly send a signal to inform Tian Ziming, but Luo Shang immediately restrained them and didn't give them any chance to make a move. "Where are the people here?" The killing intent covered Mu Yu's entire body. The mustache man panicked, but his eyes kept looking at the sky as if waiting for rescue. We. Gotcha. The mustache man's neck had been twisted. Mu Yu's eyes flashed with a strong killing intent. The mustache man didn't understand what Mu Yu in this state meant. "You say?" Mu Yu pointed to the second rough man with a scar at the corner of his eye. When the scarred man saw the mustache man fall, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect Mu Yu to be so decisive in killing people. That aura was like a devil, which made him terrified. He quickly shouted, "Lord, please spare our lives." The great elder of the Burning Sea sect said that Xian Zhengtang of the Xian Beast Workshop was harboring criminals, so the city lord brought people to denounce him. However, Xian Zhengtang didn't want to tell the truth, nor did he want to admit that you were the mysterious man from yesterday. He even caught the old Castellan. For the sake of the whole city, Castellan. What did he do to them? Mu Yu's voice was already trembling. Xian Jingtang was a very upright person. It was because of this integrity that made Mu Yu want to help them. The old city lord was a brave and responsible person. The old city lord wanted to save the city, so Mu Yu had to save them. They are at the city gate. Lord, it really has nothing to do with us. The scarred man knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.